Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'd like to invite Chair Serrano to open the meeting before we proceed with today's agenda.
Thank you very much. Good morning, colleagues. It is my solemn duty to ask that we begin today's meeting by remembering our board colleague, Gary Aramp. Gary passed away on July 16th. He was a sitting member of this board representing the Valley Center Municipal Water District. And his departure is truly not just about this agency and what it means to us here, but it is so much to the broader water community and to so many of us who had the privilege of ever serving with him. Gary was, in every sense, a pillar of this institution. He was a presence, a source of wisdom, and he was someone whose influence reached far beyond this boardroom and far beyond this agency. As I believe our general manager said in his statement, he was an icon in the water world. And how privileged are so many of us to have known him. And I will confess, I didn't have the blessing of knowing Gary for as long or perhaps as personally as many did in this room. But what I will always remember and what I will always be grateful for is how accepting he was of my service here, not only because of who I represent on this body, but for who I am as a person. That meant a great deal to me personally, and I believe so many of us had that same experience with him. And like many, Gary was someone I looked to. Someone I looked to when I wanted to make sure I was on the right track. Someone I looked to when I wanted to know whether what I was thinking or the vision I had was crazy or actually made sense. Someone I looked to simply better understand. And while it's true, and you all know and can testify, there were moments where we disagreed. He sometimes had a sly dig for me, for my agency, or a decision we had put forward, or about governance and the weighted vote. But what I came to know about Gary was this: he never lost sight of our humanity. He never let disagreement erase decency. He never let the work consume the person. We'd still be able to have a vodka soda after the work was done. And to me, that's not only the mark of a true professional and someone who knows a good cocktail, it's the mark of a truly good human being. And all of us should be proud for the opportunity we had to know him. Gary devoted more than 5 decades to public service in California's water industry. Nearly 37 of those years were spent at Valley Center. That's an extraordinary commitment and a lifetime of service, a lifetime spent making sure communities had safe and reliable water, making sure public resources were managed responsibly, and making sure public agencies were governed with the seriousness, integrity, and professionalism ratepayers deserve. In the mayor's office, we have long had a guiding principle for our work: to leave things better than we found them. Built on the premise that if you truly care about something, you leave it better than you found it. It was a lesson the mayor was taught by his parents. That is our standard and that is our goal. And when I step back and think about Gary's time here at the San Diego County Water Authority and his service beyond, when we think about his role, his counsel, his steady presence that played in so much of what this agency has accomplished, and when you think about the broader effect that has played in Southern California and the broader water world, I believe there is no question that he did just that. He left Valley Center better than he found it. He left this agency better than he found it. He left Southern California better than he found it. He left the broader water community better than he found it. He left this work better than he found it. And he left all of us better for having known him. So on behalf of all of us at the San Diego County Water Authority, on behalf of the people of the city and the county of San Diego, I wanted to start this morning to say to our friend and colleague, Gary Aramp, thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your wisdom. And thank you for your humanity. You will be greatly missed, but what you have done for all of us remains a profound, profound legacy. I would now like to ask that you join me for a moment of silence in Gary's memory. Thank you, Gary. Godspeed.
Thank you, Chair Serrano. Very eloquently said. Do we still need a quorum? Okay, thank you. So, Chair Serrano, I'd like to appoint you to the committee because to make a quorum. Thank you. The General Counsel will now report any remote attendance disclosures.
We have no remote attendees today.
Thank you. Welcome to the Engineering Operations Committee meeting for Thursday, July 23rd, 2026. I'm Chair Ray, and this meeting is called to order. Tony, could you please call the roll?
Chair Ray,
Present.
Vice Chair Fong Sakai,
Good morning, I'm present.
Vice Chair Heidemann,
Here.
Director Abdullahi, Director Coates Hedberg, Supervisor Desmond, Director Freehoff,
Present.
Director Rivera,
Present.
Director Sanchez, Director Serrano,
Here.
Director Shin,
Present.
Director Wall, Director Whitburn. Chair Ray, you have a quorum.
Right, thank you. As we discuss the items on the agenda today, I will be calling on directors who push their speaker buttons. Please limit your comments to matters not already addressed and state all of your points when you have a chance to speak so we can move through our agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda?
I see none.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask if there are any public speakers.
Calling on public comment for matters on the Engineering and Operations Committee agenda or within the committee's jurisdiction. You have 3 minutes to make your comments. First speaker with the last name Javier. You may begin now.
Good morning. I know.
Yeah.
I am Purita Javier Senior with, oh my
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
I cannot.
They will understand.
Mm.
Come on.
Good morning. I am Purita Javier Senior with existing medical condition and victim of ceramics kiln toxicity in a residential zone dedicated community since 1984. We are hurt and live in fear. We need water to clean the surrounding in our property and to water our vegetation. EPA state admire us to plant trees at common boundary or property line and set of directed at the ceramics facility. EPA federal responded so that the community problem is local or city zoning. APCP compliance investigative uh,
Office.
uh,
Office.
office declared that air pollution is negligible region-wide. We offered our property for observation and monitoring, but up to this, they ignored the city elected officials for 5 years remained
You have 30
silent,
seconds left.
ignored, and neglected.
I am Cesar Javier. We apologize because this public agenda is supposed to be about the action discussion presentation. In our engagement with you, we really are surprised because normally, in our experience on Brown Act provisions, this public agenda, non-agenda item is all about the sphere on water discussions obtaining in our community. But it says here something about an item to be discussed first before we say something. Sir from Carlsbad, Shin is knowledgeable on this, frequently attending meeting at Sandag. And even at the City Hall. I believe that our comment last time with a fellow public participant saying that Brown Act should be more or less a semblance on what we are talking about here or discussing about here. Our apology. But the essence and spirit of this is that we would like to convey to you that water is the second vital commodity for survival of humans. Right now, we call the city, Sir, we kneel down, come and repair the leak at Salta, corner, Streamview. It's almost 2 weeks now. Sir Serrano, you're the staff of the mayor. This is our wish, conservation, and dream of collecting the precious commodity during flood or heavy rain or whatever. This is the one we dream. This is the one that we have been trying to hear from you what things to do, the right things to do, so we could, make this commodity not only affordable but free, because this is God-given for all of us. Nobody owns this. Nobody manages this. But we have to use
You have
this
30 seconds left.
cleanly
Please wrap up your
for our
comments.
survival. Thank you, sir, Ma'am, Chair, Sir Serrano. Let's do something. Thank you.
If there are public speakers in the Zoom waiting room, please raise your hand through the Zoom app or press *9 if you are listening by phone. Carrie, I see none.
Thank you very much. So last Thursday, our general manager, Dan Denham, declared an emergency for Pipeline 3 leak. Crews are working diligently to determine the extent of the damage and perform needed repairs. Updates will be provided as work continues and efforts are being made to minimize any disruptions to service during this period. For more information, there will be more information to follow at today's formal board meeting. Are there any director comments? Chair Serrano?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to extend a welcome to our newest colleague, Councilmember Kevin Shin, representing the city of Carlsbad, joining our great colleague, Secretary Acosta, excuse me. Welcome, and I hope you guys will all welcome him here.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other comments, and there are no consent calendar items. So the first item on the action discussion agenda is the presentation on the Aqueduct Operating Plan for the fiscal year 2027. Chris Castaigne will provide the presentation.
Good morning, Chair Ray and members of the committee, and thank you for the opportunity to present today. My name is Chris Castaigne, Operations and Maintenance Manager. This morning, I'll provide an overview of the fiscal year 2027 Aqueduct Operating Plan, otherwise known as the AOP, which can be found on page 5 of your board packet. The AOP serves as our roadmap for managing water deliveries, infrastructure maintenance, planned shutdowns, energy usage, reservoir operations, and major capital and maintenance activities throughout the upcoming year. Today, I'll highlight both what we accomplished in fiscal year 2026 and what we're planning for fiscal year 2027 to ensure continued reliability of the regional water delivery system. And just as a side note, for those that were here last year, I do not have a bucket of props, and my phone was left in the truck, so it will not go off today. So, all right. So the Aqueduct Operating Plan originated from board direction in 2005, when staff was tasked with developing an annual operating plan in collaboration with our member agencies. The AOP has 3 primary objectives: improve communication with member agencies, coordinate regional operations and maintenance activities, and maximize the use of our region resources as well as the infrastructure. The plan is not developed in isolation. The topics included in the AOP are discussed regularly at the operating heads meetings, allowing us to continually adjust and refine our operations throughout the year. The AOP focus is organized around 6 key focus items that collectively support reliable water service throughout the region. These include water supply and conveyance, aqueduct shutdowns, member agency shutdowns, energy production and consumption, reservoir operations and storage management, as well as asset management and major maintenance activities. Together, these areas provide a comprehensive view of how we operate, maintain, and improve the aqueduct system. Water supply and conveyance planning is one of the most important components of the AOP. We use member agency demand projections along with forecasting tools and operational modeling to estimate future demands and evaluate system performance. This information allows us to assess available water sources, contractual obligations, treatment and conveyance capacity, operational constraints, and water quality considerations. Our goal is to ensure that we can reliably meet regional demands while maintaining flexibility and operational resiliency. So where do we get our water? And I think this is an important section. The next section of slides just kind of provides a little bit of background history on the operations of the system. So we're all familiar with the Colorado River water that comes into the region. We're also supplied with the State Water Project. And back in the mid 2010-15 area, we ended up introducing desal into that mix. So we have a very broad supply of source water coming into the region. How do we do it? There's roughly about 300 plus miles of pipeline ranging in size from 30-inch to 108-inch in diameter. Within that infrastructure, there's roughly 1,600 structures that allow those pipelines to operate properly, including blow-offs, pump wells, and air valves. Just about 100 flow control facilities. Majority of them are in service, some are out of service, but that allows us to pull off of the aqueduct system to maintain water deliveries to our member agencies. Those control facilities and all those structures are consistent or contained within the 2 aqueducts. The first aqueduct is on the east side of the 15 freeway, which consists of pipelines 1 and 2. And the second aqueduct is on the west side of the 15 freeway for the most part, which consists of pipeline 3, 4, and 5. So who does it? Well, control room is manned 24/7. There are 2 operators in that control room to ensure that they are monitoring everything taking place. Those operators work 12-hour shifts, 2 of them during the day, 2 of them during the night. They are part of a 16-man crew that basically are responsible for flow of water as well as the water quality aspect. They are the ones that when the member agencies call for those water requests, whether more water or less water, they're the ones making those changes and ensuring the system is maintained in a balanced state. So our system is very unique in the sense that it's not a typical distribution system where it's a grid or a Christmas tree. It's basically a north to south. And so when water is ordered, back in the good old days when it was very simple, water came from the north from Skinner, and basically you just had to make sure you ordered enough water to make it all the way to the bottom, to where you didn't dry up the lower siphons or you didn't overflow through the vents into reservoirs. Things changed back in the 2015 timeframe when desal was introduced, and we were able to move water from the coast up into our highest point of the system, basically in the Twin Oaks area at the diversion, to where that water is blended with at the Twin Oaks treatment plant, and we're able to feed water even north across over to the first aqueduct. This is our entire treated system on one page, from point of delivery all the way to the terminus. Very simple, straightforward, straight lines, a couple little arterial lines that go off to the side. This is our untreated system, basically the same thing, a little bit more complex because we actually do have some interconnections with the reservoirs, but ultimately the same concept, a north to south operation. So the sources of water that come into our system on the treated side consists of the Skinner treatment plant, which feeds into both the first aqueduct as well as the second aqueduct. Pipelines 1 and 2 have a capacity of 180 CFS, roughly 90 CFS per pipeline. We are able to take those pipelines down to roughly 13 CFS. The reason why it's 13 CFS is the meter is actually set up for 130 CFS, so it's 10% of the meter minimum. The unique thing about the first aqueduct is we actually can take either one of those pipelines or both to zero if there is no demand on the first aqueduct. On the second aqueduct, a little bit different story. There is a capacity of roughly 450 CFS. You'll notice that I made the comment about 10% of meter capacity, so you would think that that minimum would be 45. A number of years back, because of the change in regional demand and operations of the system, we collaborated with Metropolitan to install a bypass around the main system to where we were able to operate down to a lower volume to maximize the region's water sources. The challenge is, why there's 2 asterisks on there is we cannot operate pipeline 4 to 0. We always have to maintain water deliveries on pipeline 4, which makes it very challenging. Good and bad, but because of how the system was operated or designed, it cannot withstand that gradient. There's no way to just stop the flow. So that's why there's the 2 asterisks, just to kind of reiterate that. No way to isolate. Second source is Twin Oaks Valley Water Treatment Plant up at the diversion area up in San Marcos. The plant has a capacity of 155 CFS. Originally, when the facility was constructed, we were only able to go down to about 30-ish CFS because of how it was operated and designed. Over the course of its operation, we have worked with their team to allow them to make changes within the system to where we can actually turn them all the way down to 10%, roughly 15 CFS. It's a little bit of a roller coaster ride, to be honest, operationally, but it can operate all the way down to that level. And because of its unique location and all of the supplies in the region, we are able to consider this as part of a major part of the emergency storage project. We also have the Carlsbad desal plant, which came into play back in the 2015 timeframe. 83 CFS capacity, roughly. If you want to get technical, it's 83.55. But we'll stick with 83. We can operate it as low as 26 CFS, and it is a critical component as well as the emergency storage project. On the untreated side, we have 2 aqueducts or 2 pipelines within the second aqueduct that allow us to convey untreated water into the system. Total capacity, roughly 780 CFS. We can take those down to the minimum. We can also take them down to 0 if we need to. We also have a Leavington Reservoir, which provides us a body to store water for emergency purpose as well as operational if needed. Capacity just under 25,000 acre feet. Depending on hydraulic conditions on the system, we're able to gravity into the reservoir up to 75 CFS if we can configure it appropriately. And we can withdraw water up to about 84 CFS as well. In the event we have to pump, because of system hydraulics, we have to overcome the downstream head conditions. We can utilize the pumps at that station They're each 2,500 horsepower, so they're just not little Home Depot pumps. Roughly up to 120 CFS on the inflow and up to 340 CFS coming out. There's a little bullet at the bottom of this slide, limitations. The limitations are because of the water quality within that reservoir, the downstream users worked together as a technical advisory group to come up with certain parameters that the water coming out had to meet. And so there is not a direct, we want to take 50 CFS out. We have to take into consideration the actual source water in the regular reservoir or regular aqueduct and make sure that's within a certain percentage of the constituents before we can allow that water to come out, which does make it challenging, but it is a limitation. San Vicente Reservoir is the other reservoir in our region that we have some storage rights in, up to almost 160,000 acre feet. Inflow by gravity off the first aqueduct, up to 150 CFS we can put in. On the second aqueduct with the San Vicente Tunnel and the fill chute, we can put up to 350 CFS in. I have yet to see the 350 mark, honestly, but when we had those torrential rains during a few years back, we were pushing almost 300 CFS into that reservoir to put water somewhere because there was no demand. On the outflow side, we have a pump station at the base. We are able to use 1, 2, not 3 pumps at a time. They're 7,500 horsepower, so these are even bigger. The reason why there's an asterisk by that line is 2 of the pumps share the same variable frequency drive, the VFD. So you can't run them simultaneously. So at the most, we can run 2 pumps at the same time. So we can push up to 320 CFS out of that reservoir. We also, with the interconnections, have the ability to gravity into the city's El Monte pipeline, which will allow water to be fed to the Miramar treatment plant, which also provides some operational flexibility. All of these things play into this slide. A number of years back, there was a decision by the board in the region to invest in emergency storage for regional resiliency, which includes those 2 reservoirs, as well as the Twin Oaks plant, as well as the desal plant. System of reservoirs, interconnected pipelines that allow us to maintain 75% reliability and delivery of water during the event of a full separation of water from up north in a 2-month or 6-month exercise. So our region is set up extremely well if and when, knock on wood, there were something to happen. All right, and so how does that work? Well, San Vicente Reservoir has the ability to pump that water out, and we can basically feed that lower section of our system to all the member agency treatment plants. You notice the arrow on the upper part of that screen does not go all the way up. The water in San Vicente Reservoir hydraulically cannot move any further than basically the Del Dios Highway area. That's kind of a good landmark. But that keeps all of the treatment plants south of that in water in the event of an emergency. One unique thing to note, while we have this specific side up, San Vicente Pump Station was put in place primarily for emergency storage operations. We have changed our mode of operations from a day-to-day operations to where this is now part of our tool chest. We are actually pulling operational storage out of the reservoir as we speak, about 100 to 150 CFS from previously stored water. So we are getting our use operationally, which is a huge value to keep. Pumps don't like to just sit. So it's a huge benefit to have that in our toolbox. In addition, we have a Livenhain Reservoir, which basically feeds the upper portion of the system, keeping all the northern treatment plants in water when an event takes place. We also have the Carlsbad Desal plant, which puts treated water into the system up to Twin Oaks and allows us basically to maintain water deliveries to all of our flow control facilities. So great operations and investment, awesome strategy to have to where in the event something were to happen, we are covered. So now we're back to the operating plan. So I appreciate you allowing me to take you on that ride. This chart compares projected and actual treated water deliveries during fiscal year 2026. The region's treated water supply came from a diverse mix. It utilized all the different sources of treated water in our region. And as a result, we did not encounter any supply limitations or pipeline capacity constraints. Just as a side note, historically, these charts emphasize strictly pipeline capacity. Back in those early 2000s, that was the whole driver of this, is there was not enough capacity in the pipeline system, the treatment plants, to where we could accommodate and meet regional demand. So given the lower regional water demands and increased supply diversification, we now focus on sources and the system utilization on these charts, which provides a more meaningful picture of operational conditions. And on this chart, this is on the untreated side. So this chart shows the projected versus actual untreated water deliveries. One significant change during this year was the implementation of the new MWD QSA agreement, which basically streamlined how QSA water is managed. Historically, lower winter demands often required us placing untreated water into storage. Under this new framework, that was not necessary starting on January 1st. Instead, we were able to actually make use of existing stored supplies beginning in late May. You can see the little blue bar on top. And actually, we're continuing to pull that operational storage out now. So we did not have to place any water purposefully into storage this year, which is great. So overall, the revised agreement has increased operational flexibility, which is huge to have in our tool chest. And it's actually simplified the management of QSA just in general, the deliveries themselves. So looking ahead in fiscal year 2027, treated water deliveries are projected to peak at approximately just under 30% of treated aqueduct capacity. We will use all of the sources of water. You will notice that there's a little bit less shown on Twin Oaks for the year. That is because Twin Oaks production is lower because of the Pipeline 5 Reline project. Pipeline 5 Reline project starts in early November, which basically takes the plant offline while that is taking place. On the untreated side, we are projecting roughly just a little over 60% pipeline capacity based on the projected demands. Good supply mix, over 90% is going to be supplied by QSA. Roughly just under 10% is going to be operational storage that we're going to pull out of our reservoirs. And then the balance, you'll see kind of in the December, there's a slight sliver for the MWD deliveries. That'll help balance the QSA because demands are never perfectly projected or actually taken. So it gives us some flexibility at the end of the year. So these projections demonstrate the continued importance of QSA supplies in the region's overall water portfolio. And we do not anticipate any conveyance constraints or limitations this year. Aqueduct shutdowns and outages. Shutdown planning, it is a year-round effort that relies on extensive coordination with both internal departments as well as our external stakeholders. We maintain a rolling 3-year outlook, looking into identify upcoming operational needs and maintenance requirements. Each year, a draft shutdown schedule is developed by January 31st, giving our member agencies and operational staff sufficient time to coordinate activities and prepare contingency plans for those planned outages and shutdowns. The objective is to safely complete the necessary work while minimizing impacts on the water deliveries and maintaining high levels of customer service. Each shutdown or outage undergoes a detailed evaluation process strictly by itself. For every event, we review who is affected, what work will be performed, when the work can be completed, and most effectively, and where the impacts will occur. We also evaluate potential impacts to member agencies and opportunities to combine multiple projects into a single shutdown window. And in general, shutdowns affect the larger portion of our system, whereas the outages are more localized with very minimal operational impact or footprint. So here's our shutdown schedule. There's not too many on there, but if you look in those bubbles, there's a lot of work activities taking place. We currently have 3 planned treated water shutdowns that are shown by the 3 blue boxes. We have 2 treated water outages on the bottom with the orange. Those are our pre-scheduled desalination plant shutdowns. And then we have 2 untreated water shutdowns as well scheduled. These activities support inspections, maintenance, facility improvements, and other work necessary to maintain system reliability. Careful coordination helps ensure that impacts to member agencies remain manageable and predictable. It's not just about our shutdowns, though. It's also about the member agency shutdowns. So in addition to our shutdowns, we coordinate closely with the member agencies and their operations staff to ensure we're aware of their planned activities to where hopefully we do not have overlap to where it causes any issues. This collaboration allows us to understand regional impacts, identify potential conflicts, and find opportunities for coordination. The result is a more efficient maintenance scheduling and improved reliability throughout the region. Energy management continues to be a significant operational focus as well. This slide highlights several major facilities that are our high energy users. Obviously the pump stations, when they're 7,500 horsepower, 2,500 horsepower, there's a lot of energy being consumed. We're always monitoring the energy use at these facilities to hopefully identify efficiencies, manage costs, and support operational efficiencies. We also have additional facilities, high users, the Miramar Pump Station, Twin Oaks Valley Water Treatment Plant. We also have our solar systems that are installed at the Escondido and Kearney Mesa headquarters, as well as the Twin Oaks Flow Regulatory Structure. Regional reservoir storage. This is a very interesting slide, and if numbers look a little different, they are compared to last year. This slide basically just provides a very high-level overview. Roughly, as of the end of June, at about just over 270,000 acre-foot of local regional storage, which also includes our emergency storage component. That's roughly about 39% of the region's capacity in the reservoirs. It's about 10% less than last year at the same time, just to kind of put things into perspective. Again, just another display of the regional reservoir storage. The storage conditions are continuously being monitored because they influence our operational flexibility. These are used on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to ensure we are operating the system accordingly, to ensure we are prepared for an emergency and meeting our long-term supply planning efforts. There we go. All right, so almost on the home stretch. Our asset management and major maintenance activities that we accomplished this past year. This just highlights a few of the activities. Lot of internal inspections on the pipelines, taking advantage of those shutdowns, getting in there and using whatever best technology there is to ensure we're getting the most data we can to make informed decisions on our path forward as far as maintenance. Next slide is just some additional activities that were completed. The one thing for me that I do kind of just want to highlight, the enhanced water quality monitoring. Many of you are aware with the new regulations, the new compliance requirements, they're ever changing. We're always trying to adapt. We took advantage of a few of our flow control facilities that were taken out of service for reasons on the north end. And basically, instead of just removing them completely, we actually rehabilitated them and repurposed them to water quality monitoring stations to where we now are able to monitor a much larger scale of our system. Moving into 27, again, a lot of pipeline inspections. 50 miles of pipeline is currently on the books for internal inspection. A more in-depth assessment of 25 miles of our PCCP pipe, the pre-stressed concrete. Continuing with the cathodic protection, again, that is a very huge item that seems to never go away. Again, the buildings and our infrastructure are getting older. We're having to rebuild some of our flow control valves and replace them. They just aren't necessarily getting the extended life that we need. We have, again, more opportunities for water quality improvements as well. But this is the slide that you've all been waiting for, right? Expect the unexpected. We're all fans of Big Brother on TV, right? We can have the most detailed plan out there and work with everybody in the room, everybody in the region. You never know what might get thrown your way. And this past year, we had some curveballs. The pipeline for urgent repair up on the northern part of our treated system, that was not expected. We were planning on addressing that in this upcoming shutdown year, but because of the concern and the wire break activity, we had to pull that lever to address it. It's in a very challenging location. As I mentioned on the earlier slides, we can't just shut a valve. We can't just stop flows. It's a huge impact to work on that area. And then after we wrapped that one up, we got a nice little phone call of water on pipeline 3 down in the middle part of our section. And that's what we're dealing with right now. So, you know, when we come to work in every day, it's what's next? Which fire is going to get thrown at us? The AOP though, these events that come unforeseen, they reinforce the importance of maintaining flexibility within our operations plan and having staff, resources, and contingencies plans ready to implement when needed. So the AOP provides that framework of here's our guidelines, but it allows us that flexibility to adjust when these fires do come up. So looking forward, implementation of the AOP, basically as of July 1st, it'll continue with our regular coordination and operating heads meetings as a standing agenda item. Some key milestones that will be coming up in the next year. We'll start the draft of the next shutdown schedule, provide that to the member agencies for review in January of 27. We'll be bringing a presentation to the member agency managers meeting in the June, July timeframe as well on the Aqueduct operating plan for fiscal year 2028, followed by the board meeting in July of next summer. So this basically concludes my presentation on the fiscal year 2027 Aqueduct operating plan. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Directors Fong Sakai.
Thank you for this very timely presentation. And Chris, you and your team, you guys always do a terrific job, I think. I do have a question. I know that the projects that we work on, and our priority system are tied also to our biennial budget and the risk that this board directs you to take. So it's my understanding that we're at a moderate risk right now.
That is correct.
I don't know whether it would be this committee or whether it would be Finance Committee, but perhaps we might bring back to this board at some point what the ramifications would be if we decided to change our allowable risk to low risk. And I'd like to also see how that would change how we monitor our pipelines for that risk. Because anytime we have emergency repairs, it always costs us a lot more money. So if we could identify what the risk could be in advance and make repairs a day before failure, that would certainly be advantageous, I think, to us.
Thank you, Director Fong Sakai. Staff is preparing and will be preparing some analyses. Your input is very important to help us shape those. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Director Freehoff.
Great. Thank you, Chris, and your team for putting the plan together. Piece that I really appreciate is the coordination, collaboration with the member agencies. I think that's key. Obviously, we couldn't be successful without that and ensuring that we have reliable supply for our customers. And I know this isn't a separate plan, but can you remind me, I know we're dealing with climate change. We have this weather whiplash, and we've got a super El Nino coming. And I know we have our EOC in case of fire and such. Do we have a component regarding flooding? And if we do get inundated with rain, or how some of the flow control facilities and such, how do we have? Tell me about like flooding and how we deal with that to ensure that we can still operate our system.
Yeah, that's a great question. Is part of our contingency plan and our risk mitigation. Those are things that are looked at. It really comes down to site specific, and I apologize for using this phrase. It does depend on the individual situation, but it is something that we look at. We've been through torrential rains. There are challenges operationally. As long as we're maintaining power to those facilities, they can still operate. We're looking at projects to provide backup power if in fact we lose utility power in those situations. We're looking at the facilities that maybe are prone to flooding. How can we improve and harden those to where they can fend off those situations. The biggest challenge operationally, and I'm sure someone can jump in and add more, but if it rains like that, generally what happens is no one uses water.
Oh, that's true.
And so where do we put the water? Obviously, you may have to flip the switch on Twin Oaks and shut it off. You may actually have to turn down desal to shut it off. There's constraints on what we can do on the north end, but those are the things that from an operational perspective, we are always looking at where do we put the water? And I think as was displayed or mentioned in the presentation, we're creating a pretty good void in San Vicente to where if in fact we need to put water somewhere, we have a void in there this coming winter, which will be good. We haven't had that for a few years because demands were on the lower end. But with the QSA change, it's provided that flexibility and we're making the best of it. So a lot of different preparation.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm glad you're aware that you're positioned, and I realize it's site specific, but thank
Yep.
you.
Director Heidemann?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks for the presentation, Chris. On slide number 19, I think it was, where you showed the schematic, for in the event of an ESP event. So San Vicente would serve everybody south and a small portion of, I guess, the second aqueduct portion. So for Poway, we have a water treatment plant. Would we be fed water from Twin Oaks, treated water to our facility, or how does that work?
Ooh, that's a very loaded question, Director Heidemann.
Sorry, I didn't intend anything by that. I'm just curious. I wasn't here during the development of the ESP, so it's just
No, no.
curiosity.
The original intent, well, we'll back up a little bit. The original intent of ESP was to put untreated water into the pipe. Treated pipelines, untreated pipelines, you were getting raw water. It was going to go into a boil water. We're keeping the pipelines wet. With Twin Oaks as well as desal, we now have the ability to maintain treated delivery, so we don't have that challenge. The reason why it's a loaded question for Poway specific, currently you have an untreated connection.
Mm-hmm.
So you would be provided water out of the emergency storage in a Livenhain reservoir. When and if there is a treated connection, you would be provided water from desal or Twin Oaks. So that's
Got
the
it.
variable.
Understood. Okay. Thanks. That's helpful.
Director Paul?
Thank you. I'm not a member of this committee, so I appreciate the opportunity to comment and question. With the emergency shutdown on Pipeline 3, operationally, how are you dealing with that? And is it a mild inconvenience or a super big inconvenience? If you could just explain that a little bit for us. Thank you.
Great question, Director Paul. Through that particular section of our system, we have Pipeline 3 and 4, which are both treated. The flow control facilities that are along that stretch have takeoffs off of both pipelines. So we actually are able to, we moved everybody over to the Pipeline 4, which is still in service. We were able to isolate Pipeline 3, completely isolate it to where we could drain down and address the repair. It is a big inconvenience. There are hydraulic differences between Pipeline 3 and 4. They don't have the same grade lines through all the different siphons. From a capacity standpoint, we're meeting the demands. If there was an event, it'd make it very difficult because of the limitations on Pipeline 4. But going back to an earlier statement, the team in general have learned how to operate the system way outside of the original design in regards to making the best of these challenging situations. For example, during the Pipeline 4 shutdown, I know your question was on Pipeline 3. During those normal shutdowns, the Twin Oaks treatment plant is offline because it feeds into Pipeline 4 and there's no isolation from the north. Sat down with the crew and they had a great brainstorming conversation and said, we have the desalination influent piping coming into the clear wells at Twin Oaks. Why don't we raise the level in the reservoir and overflow back into the influent pipeline? It blends with desal and we can maximize and use Twin Oaks when before we couldn't because it feeds into the pipeline further down south. So on the Pipeline 3 section, we don't necessarily have that flexibility. It is challenging though that you're on one pipeline. So, but we are managing.
Okay, and Director Myers?
Thank you. I'm also not on this committee, so thanks for the opportunity to speak. Just really along the lines of Director Fong Sakai, I noted was last week there was a break in Los Angeles on Sunset Boulevard of, I'll say, an only 36-inch, 100-year-old steel pipe that caused a lot of damage and a lot of flooding there. And they're probably spending who knows how much right now to get that all fixed. I think our pipes are 2 times, maybe even a little bit larger than that, and the pressures are much higher. So I think that illustrates the need for us to obviously stay on top of this, and the comment that if we doing this in a managed way as opposed to an emergency way is always much more efficient and much more productive. So I do encourage us and I know that we're working on it, having a good discussion about the moderate risk versus high risk. Work really hard and diligently in a very detailed way as to what more, if anything, we might need, and obviously what the rate impact and the financial impact of that will be. So thank you. It was a very good presentation, very informative. Appreciate it.
Okay, I don't see any more comments. Chris, thank you. That was a great presentation. Before we move on to our next item, General Manager Denham would like to share a few remarks.
Yeah, before Jason gets started, I just wanted to underscore the importance of this next item, which is to isolate the Hodges pump storage facility from Hodges itself. This is primarily a safety issue that we are experiencing at the facility. It's also secondarily an environmental issue, not allowing contaminants from the facility to enter Hodges. I think as Chris showed in the presentation, you see that the Water Authority has no water behind the dam right now at Hodges, and the facility arguably is no longer being used. So what's going to be done is we're going to install bulkheads to isolate the facility. And arguably what this really is one step closer to the decommissioning and isolation, permanent isolation of the Lake Hodges pump storage facility. So Jason, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Ray, members of the committee. My name is Jason Gornall, Engineering Manager in the Engineering Department. I'm here today to recommend award of a design build contract for the Lake Hodges Hydroelectric Facility Isolation Project. This item can be found on page 28 of your board packet. The project is located in northern San Diego County on the western shore of Lake Hodges, as shown on the figure on the left. The facility site where the project will take place is shown on the right, was constructed in 2005 and became operational in 2012. The facility was designed to function by pumping water from Lake Hodges uphill to the higher elevation Alevenheim Reservoir during periods of low electricity demand using excess grid power. Then releasing that water back down through the facility's turbines to generate hydroelectricity during peak electricity demand periods. However, since the Lake Hodges Dam water level restriction in 2023, this facility has been unable to operate. The objective of this project, as Dan mentioned, is to isolate the hydroelectric facility from Lake Hodges. This picture shows a top-down look at one of the 28,000 horsepower pumping units. Safe and reliable isolation capabilities are truly essential to ensuring that the facility can be periodically inspected and maintained. The slide gates that were originally installed with the facility's construction have degraded over time and no longer provide reliable closure. More critically, those existing slide gates do not meet Cal OSHA isolation requirements. This deficiency also poses an environmental risk. Should a breach occur in the facility, materials and contaminants could leach into the lake. This figure provides an overview of the facility's configuration and its relationship to Lake Hodges. The hydro facility, which is highlighted in green here, largely exists beneath the ground surface, extending approximately 115 feet underground. It is connected to Lake Hodges via a 200-foot-long tunnel. Water from the lake enters the facility through what is known as the tailwater shaft That's shown as the blue column of water inside the hydroelectric facility. Within that tailwater shaft live 10 piping connections that enter the facility, and those range in size from 2 inches up to 84 by 54 inches. Those are the large pumping unit intake. These 10 locations require improvements to achieve compliant isolation from the lake. This is a closer view of that area where the lake meets the facility. Again, entering in through that tailwater shaft, again shown as a blue column of water. Under the normal operating conditions, or the original operating conditions, water was pumped to Liebenheim Reservoir, shown in that green path on the screen. The isolation, which is shown in red here, will be constructed underwater with workers entering through the tailwater shaft. This underwater bulkhead construction is quite dangerous, requiring a specialized contractor with the proper experience, welding qualifications, and a robust safety program. In April of this year, staff advertised a request for proposals, which resulted in 3 proposals being received. A selection committee reviewed those proposals and scored them using the criteria shown in the blue box on the screen here. This resulted in JF Brennan's proposal being ranked the highest. Therefore, it's staff's recommendation to award a design build contract to JF Brennan Company in the amount of just over $1.4 million for the Lake Hodges facility isolation project. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Jason. Vice Chair Fong Sakai.
Thank you very much for that update. So I think this project's very important, certainly needed for maintenance, but I do have a question, and you had mentioned it briefly, as our general manager did also. So this project will completely eliminate the possibility for hydroelectric at Lake Hodges. Is that correct?
The bulkheads are currently envisioned to be welded steel bulkheads. So I would classify those as semi-permanent. So they are removable if for some reason in the future it was decided to reactivate the facility.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can add to that, Director Fong Sakai, if the situation at Hodges with the dam and the pump hydro changes in the future, like Jason said, we do have the ability to remove it. So we still have some flexibility. But again, this is just getting us one step closer to something that could resemble decommissioning the facility.
Okay. And are there going to be any other costs associated with operating costs after this?
I can answer that question. Yeah. So typically when we were running the pumped hydro plant at a full clip, it was about $3 million a year for O&M costs. With its current status, last fiscal year, it was about $800,000. It'll probably come in a little bit less this year. And quite candidly, that's just to keep the lights on and pay the electric bills.
Okay, so the cost will be going down. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, they're already down since 2023.
All right.
That's what we've been experiencing.
All right, thank you so much. I have no other questions at this time.
Thank you. Director Wall.
Can you hear me? Thank you for that presentation. Appreciate it. It's next to my division at Rincon. How is this going to disrupt or not disrupt the community? Is it going to shut down roads? Are they going to start protesting this? I mean, what is this? You won't even see it happening.
The construction itself will take place on the site on the facility site, largely go unnoticed by the community. Although, as with all of our CIP projects, our public affairs group will be involved during the design process to ensure the surrounding folks are aware of the project and prepared for any disturbance that there might be.
Okay. Yeah, I recommend like you send that note out because people will notice and say things. Thank you.
Director Fong Sakai.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to move staff recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Rivera.
Thank you. Can you call? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. There are no information items and there are no closed session items. And there's no further business for the Engineering Operations Committee. I'd like to thank Chair Serrano again for his very eloquent and meaningful remarks about Director Arant. Water Planning and Environmental Committee in 5 minutes.
Good morning. We're going to start the Water Planning and Environmental Committee meeting for July 23rd. Before we start today's agenda, General Counsel will report on any remote attendance disclosures.
We have no remote attendees today.
Thank you. Can we have a roll call, please? Suzanne?
Chair Miller,
Here.
Vice Chair Freehoff. Present. Vice Chair Scalzitti. Directors Castaneda. Coates Hedberg. Supervisor Desmond.
Here.
Directors Douglas,
Here.
Lines. Here. Macedo.
Here.
Myers,
Here.
Molina. Paul,
Yes, President.
Roback. And Wall.
Here.
Chair Miller, you have a quorum of the committee.
Thanks, Suzanne. As I think most of you know, I'll be calling on the members first if you have questions, and then I'll go to the non-members. Are there any additions to the agenda?
We have none.
Thank you. At this time, is there anybody, any public speakers that have turned in slips?
Calling on public comments for matters on the Water Planning and Environmental Committee agenda or within the jurisdiction of the committee. You have 3 minutes to make your comments. First speaker, Mr. Javier. You may begin now.
A resilient Sandegans, a Vietnamese American, passed away July 16, morning of July 16, at the age of 106. We asked the family what was the secret. They didn't know. It was just a luck for the lady, 106 years old. And we were at the kitchen and we saw Purita, bottled water. I think that is the presumption that the bottled water is clean and made him miraculously live 106. We further look at the surroundings. You know, in our preamble, it says there, governance, good governance is suitable surrounding. Domestic tranquility, public welfare. And we saw that the surrounding is quiet with lots of vegetation. And so that must be the secret, Purita, for her reaching. But there is some more. Clean food, vegetable, fruits, and this needs water. Water, gentlemen, ladies. And on item 2, Roman numeral number 2, Arabic number 2, it says frontliners, disadvantaged communities like in our District 9, west bank of Choyas Creek. Right there at the creek, we have water. The problem is we ignore and neglect this water when we are in need of water for San Diego, particularly during drought. We own the water that comes from above. We know that. And yet, it seems that it is manipulated to our
Your
City
time
of
is
San
up.
Diego is
Thank you for
planning
your
to make
comments.
adjustment on the bill on water. Help us frontliners.
Next speaker, Ms. Dunn. You may begin now.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Debbie Dunn recently retired from the Water Authority, and I'm not even 2 weeks. And I actually got up early this morning to come tell you a couple of things. First, I've been in the environmental field for over 30 years, worked for many public agencies. I want you to know this is by far my favorite place I've worked. Working with Elizabeth Lovestead and the water use efficiency team with Lisa and Carrie, the best ever. Then you've got public affairs, incredible, creative, and then our finance team, a little fussy, but fabulously fussy. And because that's good, and we pay faster than any other agency out there. So it's all been a blessing and a really wonderful place to end my career. Today, I also wanted to tell you, Lisa's going to be doing a presentation on our direct install landscape program. And that was one of my babies. Believe it or not, it was hard to find the 7 landscapes, but we found 6 partners for the 7 landscapes that were amazing. So what we did that worked really well for this program was we found people that wanted to do it. We worked with our contractor. We worked with everybody involved, got designs that worked, plants that worked, and made sure that the maintenance was something that was sustainable so that not just when it's finished, but years down the road, these are going to look great. And don't be surprised if you see me out there doing some guerrilla gardening. The sites already know I'm going to be doing it. But my goal in retirement is to keep working. I teach residential classes, but I'm also going to be working with the commercial community out there to make sure that landscapes that have been done or people are doing will look good. There'll be plants in there. There'll be greenery. There'll be pollinators to promote climate resiliency. So don't be surprised if you see me at one of your council meetings or board meetings talking about something I'm passionate about. Hopefully they'll be at night so I don't have to get up early, but it's just really important. It's my mission. So thank you again for the opportunity. It's been a blessing. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. That concludes our in-person requests. If we have online speakers, please raise your hand through the Zoom app or press *9 if you're listening by phone. We have no more speakers.
Thank you, Suzanne. Under my chair's report, earlier this month, the Water Authority received an email requesting an emergency delivery of a portion of Mexico's Colorado River water to Tijuana due to a failure in the distribution system. Cross-border deliveries happen under the binational agreement between the United States and Mexico and are usually planned months in advance, but in this case, the deliveries were unplanned and would need to be coordinated in a matter of days. Led by the Water Authority, staff immediately began coordinating with the Otay Water District, Metropolitan, and the U.S. International Boundary and Water Commission to confirm there was a capacity to make those deliveries and to calculate the costs. Over a hectic couple of days, staff was able to get confirmation from all parties that the deliveries could be made as requested by Mexico. The delivery started on July 9th and continue until the end of this month. Do I have any comments from my vice chairs, other directors? Okay, we have nothing on the consent calendar today. We have a couple of action discussion presentations. First presentation will be by Jessica Cleaver, the Senior Water Resources Specialist, will provide a regulatory update.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Miller, members of the committee and board. My name is Jessica Cleaver. I'm a Senior Water Resources Specialist here at the Water Authority. And today I will be talking about some of the regulatory developments that we have been tracking and participating in over the past year or so. Oh, I have a clicker. Sorry. So regulatory staff track state and federal regulatory issues, and we participate in the development of them through attending stakeholder meetings, working groups, and committees. We share information with the member agencies through monthly JPIC meetings and regular emails to the member agency managers. And when there's interest among member agencies, we're always happy to facilitate working groups on specific topics. And we develop comment letters to the regulatory bodies and as often as possible, share those draft comments with the member agencies to solicit their feedback. So let's start with the residential indoor water use standards that are part of the conservation regulations that the State Water Board adopted back in 2024. The regulations require urban retail water suppliers to calculate an annual water use objective using a formula that includes outdoor use, water loss, and indoor use. And the indoor use portion of that, the standard was reduced by Senate Bill 1157 from or down to 42 gallons per person per day starting in 2030. And Senate Bill 1157 also required the Department of Water Resources in coordination with the State Water Board to conduct studies on the benefits and impacts of the reduced standard on water, wastewater, and recycled water systems. The Department of Water Resources has initiated 2 studies, so a benefits and impact study and also a study looking at indoor water use trends. And these studies could possibly inform variances for the indoor use standard or even a delayed compliance date, possibly. Water Authority staff serve on the technical advisory panel for the benefits and impact study, where we meet regularly with the researchers to provide feedback on their methods and modeling. And we share any opportunities for member agencies to participate, for example, through surveys and interviews by the researchers. We share those with the member agencies. There's also a public working group for each of the study topics as well. The retail water suppliers are required to comply with or to meet their urban water use objectives starting in 2027. So next year, the State Water Board is going to be developing their enforcement strategy through a public process that we will be actively engaged in and make sure to coordinate with our member agencies through that process. Next, let's discuss advanced clean fleets. The clean fleets regulation was adopted by the California Air Resources Board back in 2023, requires public fleets to transition to zero emission vehicles or ZEVs. And public agencies have a lot of concerns about the feasibility of actually complying with this regulation. So Assembly Bill 1594 required CARB to amend the regulation to provide expanded flexibilities for public utility fleets to ensure that they can continue to provide reliable service and emergency response. Between AB 1594 and the changing ZEV landscape with shifting federal policies, CARB adopted amendments to the Clean Fleets regulation in September of last year, most notably deferring the 100% ZEV purchase requirement to 2030. Also, in April and June of this year, they've released additional proposed amendments. In June, they released what they called clarifying language that public fleets are required to include any leased or contracted vehicles in their compliance counts, which is very problematic. And so we commented in strong opposition of that. There was a recent bill, AB 1436, that would have prevented CARB from being able to regulate private fleets indirectly through public fleets in that way. Unfortunately, it did not make it out of committee, but I think there will be a conversation more on that later in LPNO, so I'll leave that there. As far as the amendments go, we're waiting to see still if CARB will end up incorporating those amendments into the regulation. Their staff did say they anticipate focusing on compliance assistance over the next few years rather than enforcement, and that they'll be releasing additional amendments. So in the meantime, we'll continue participating in our Clean Fleets working groups and following the regulation as it continues to evolve. Let's talk about PFAS. So in 2024, the Environmental Protection Agency issued the National Primary Drinking Water Standards for PFAS. It covered 6 different PFAS, and as you can see from the table, these are in low parts per trillion, so very low concentrations that are being regulated. The compliance is required beginning in 2029. And in May, I got a frog today, EPA published 2 draft PFAS regulations. The first would rescind regulations for 4 of those PFAS, leaving behind just the PFOA and PFOS standards. The reason given by EPA is that the Safe Drinking Water Act procedures weren't adequately followed when making those regulatory determinations. So their intent is to finalize that rule in September and then reevaluate those same PFAS at a later date for possible future regulation. The second proposed rule would provide a framework for water suppliers to receive a 2-year extension on compliance with the PFAS regulations. Some of the requirements is that the water supplier can demonstrate their need for the extension, and also that they're not located in a state that has already obtained primacy, which is where the state has authority to implement the federal regulation and oversee the regulation. California is a primacy state. So in that case, once the state obtains primacy, it is up to the state's discretion on who is eligible for an extension. We did provide comments on both of these proposed rules, largely in support of what EPA is proposing, however, asking some clarifying questions and providing some recommendations as well. And we shared both of the draft comment letters with member agencies for their feedback. This slide shows some of the actions by the state's Division of Drinking Water to date on PFAS, including issuing monitoring orders to get a better idea of a PFAS occurrence in the state, as well as notification and response levels for improving public health protection. These steps help lay the groundwork for a future state-specific regulation. DDW has said that PFAS is their top priority, and they plan to regulate PFAS in drinking water in 2 stages. First, by adopting the federal regulation, and second, by developing a state-specific regulation that'll look a little different. Instead of regulating each PFAS MCL by MCL, so we know there's thousands of PFAS out there, instead they're looking at regulating PFAS as a class of chemicals for a more comprehensive regulation. Unfortunately, PFAS is ubiquitous in the environment. So this is definitely an issue that we continue to watch closely and will coordinate their member agencies on going forward. Let's switch gears to the lead and copper rule. Initially issued by the EPA back in 1991, the lead and copper rule has undergone many iterations over the years, most recently the 2024 lead and copper rule improvements. And again, as a primacy state, California is looking to adopt the LCRI in the next couple months here. The LCRI include requirements for water systems to replace all lead service lines within 10 years. It has expanded service line inventory requirements, and it requires water suppliers to sample for lead at all daycare facilities and elementary schools built prior to 2014, located within their service areas starting in late 2027. Assembly Bill 1096 requires the State Water Board to create a website that hosts all those daycare and school sampling results in the interest of public transparency. So DDW is working on developing a handbook for water systems on how to submit the results to the state, et cetera. We've joined an AQUA working group on this topic, and especially since member agencies are the ones that have to actually implement this testing program, we're going to be working closely with them to help provide, to help provide feedback during the development of the handbook. Thank you. Lastly, we have the Unregulated Contaminant Monitoring Rule, or UCMR. The UCMR requires many public water systems to monitor for contaminants that have not yet been regulated, may occur in public drinking water supplies, and have been associated with negative health impacts. These national occurrence data help fill data gaps and help inform which contaminants to prioritize for future regulations. And the EPA releases a new UCMR with a new list of contaminants every 5 years. So just last month, EPA released their draft 6th UCMR, which has 30 new contaminants for monitoring, including solvents, pesticides, and ultra-short chain PFAS. The monitoring is expected to occur between 2028 and 2030, and EPA is hoping to finalize this rule by the end of the year. It's never a dull moment in the regulatory landscape, and things are always changing. But just some of the topics that we think may be coming up over the next year or so include federal review of fluoride in drinking water, new or revised maximum contaminant levels, and the state's development of a constituent of emerging concern management strategy. And I'm sure there will be many other topics that come up during that time as well. So we will continue to follow those, engage in them, work with our member agencies to advocate for the region. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Anybody got any questions or comments? Thanks for your report. One of the concerns that I have on these type of, like the last one on the looking for contaminants, Vista owns a lake, Lake Henshaw, and we are constantly monitoring it for algae issues. And as such, we have seen the technology in testing water jump from parts per million to parts per trillion. And I did a mathematical equation on like the PFAS at 4 parts per trillion. That is like taking 250 square miles of earth and hiding 4 50-cent pieces in it. So the technology, and my point is the technology has got so advanced that they can find anything in the water. And one thing we found in our water was arsenic. Now it's well under the normal danger zone, well under. But as soon as you tell somebody in the public, we found arsenic, it's like you're poisoning them. They're drinking poison. And the reality of it is arsenic's in all of our water and always has been. But just having that comment made spreads alarm in the general public. So we as water people need to realize that how we manage that knowledge and with the public, and so they don't get alarmed over naturally occurring things. And I'm not saying PFAS is naturally occurring. I'm just saying that the panic bell can be hit really hard, really quickly with the general public. Okay, thank you. Director Hedberg, you have your hand up.
I was just going to follow up with that. Yes, thank you, Chair. The dose makes the poison. The dose, it's about how much, and you're right.
Yep.
So I appreciate your comments.
Director Fonseca.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not on the committee, so I appreciate the opportunity to comment. Regarding the monitoring of the water systems, but also at different buildings, how is that supposed to be paid for? Who's responsible for the collections, for the testing?
Are you referring to the UCMR
yes.
monitoring? You know, I would have to look into that. I'm not sure if it falls entirely on the water supplier or if there's assistance that's available at all for maybe smaller communities.
Okay.
I'd have to look into that and get back
Because
to you.
one of the things that you had brought up also was that for buildings that were built between, what was the, or
Before 2014.
Before 2014, which is a lot of buildings, that the water would need to be tested at the tap. So is that something that the water agencies would have to pay for testing, or would it be the facility, the owner of the building? And then what happens if they need to make corrective measures?
So in that case, the sampling is paid for by the water supplier. If there was something detected on the private side, so these are schools and daycare facilities, then I believe that would fall under the daycare or the school to cover the costs and actually make the repairs, since this is on the private side. But the water system itself has to conduct the testing or pay to conduct the testing.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you. Item number 2 on our presentation, Lisa Pruss from the Principal Water Resources Specialist, and I hope I pronounce your name right, will present a large landscape direct install project progress update. Say that fast 3 times.
Yes, good morning, Chair Miller and committee members. I'm Lisa Pruss, Principal Water Resources Specialist in the Water Resources Department, and I'm here with a project progress update on our large landscape direct install project with the disadvantaged communities. Excuse me. This presentation begins on slide 57 if you're following along on your own. So this $1.2 million project is funded by a grant from Department of Water Resources and Metropolitan Water District member agency administered program funds. The focus is on creating 7 highly visible non-functional turf conversions to WaterWise landscapes using a single contractor for design and installation. This is in compliance with upcoming AB 1572 deadlines related to non-functional turf. These sites become examples for others of climate-friendly planting with trees for shade, colorful plants that invite pollinators, stormwater retention, and pathways to draw people into the landscape, an alternative to merely letting grass die or removing plant life and replacing with non-living ground coverings. Staff solicited input from member agencies, met with community groups, and we used Google Earth to hone in on potential sites spread throughout the Water Authority service area that met the project criteria of approximately 10,000 square feet of highly visible non-functional turf. We then scheduled site visits and discussed project potential and maintenance commitments with site owners and operators. Ultimately, staff completed participation agreements with 7 sites to complete the transformations. Each site received its own unique design. You may have heard Debbie mention that earlier. The group, made up of staff or contractor Ecotech Services and site representatives, collaborated to understand site uses and needs and create engagement with landscape through irrigation plants and other design elements. We adhered to site and municipal requirements and were also unified by the grant project parameters. The plants were selected from our Nifty 50 and Happy 100 plant list with a big focus on sturdy 30 plants that would not only look good but last. You may recall that we incorporated many of these plants into our Kearney Mesa office garden last June, and I'd invite you to take a look around and see how things have grown in and notice the birds, bees, and butterflies taking advantage of our new plants here. Each site had its own challenges. Pre-existing landscape elements and future planned work needed to blend with our designs. People, area surroundings, and terrain drove decisions on a variety of landscape elements, and in some cases lengthened the time needed to complete the site. For example, rock-hard soil. Here's an example of some rock-hard soil that we ran into at one of the sites. Extended our time at that site for several weeks. At another site, significant underground utilities changed plant placements, and city processes for permits and inspections also took time. A few sites had to work on critter removal to give the new landscape the best chance of success. And if anyone has tried to get rid of gophers or ground squirrels, you know it's no small feat. And finally, water leaks were found and needed repair at 3 of the 7 sites. You can see here an example of the leak found at Whittier School. It's estimated the leak loss over the 4+ month leak duration was 410 units of water, about 307,000 gallons, which equates to the annual indoor water use of about 20 people. The benefits make the challenges all worth it, though. One city was inspired by their experience and met rebates to complete additional non-functional turf conversions, and others may be inspired to follow. We hope so. These landscapes have improved atmosphere and added functional artful spaces. Site water, like stormwater, will be captured and used on site. Each site provides education and outreach that's easily accessed. Leaks were detected and repaired to reduce water waste and use it purposefully, and manageable maintenance will increase the chances of long-term success. Now let's look at some of the before and after photos of the sites. So Bradley Park's grass was replaced with a walking path and planted swale last August. This was immediately after. And here it is almost 1 year later and growing in. Whittier School's installation was finished in December. The principal and vice principal are pictured here enjoying the new space. The appreciation of the completed landscape from the school staff was incredibly gratifying. This Water News Network quote from Whittier's principal says it all. Now, when parents pull up into the driveway to pick up their kids or come for events or meetings, our school aligns with how we care about the kids in our school. Mission Bay High School's installation was finished in April, and a permanent educational sign will be added in the coming months. The Kimball Park, A Reason to Survive site, is our community showcase education garden. And it incorporates welcoming spaces for outdoor learning and gathering. Bilingual permanent signage will be added in the coming months. The SDSU installation site is in progress and will be completed in August. This is on Campanile Mall for those of you who are familiar with the campus. And that's what it looks like last week. This is our largest site at over 13,000 square feet, and it will create a relaxing student study and gathering area like you see on the site, which is actually another area on campus. We'll incorporate a permanent sign at this site as well. Our last site at the San Diego Community College District's Educational Cultural Complex has just begun the design process to replace the grassy strip between the parking lot and the sidewalk. And then here's our Raymond Allen Furniture site on Furniture Row in San Marcos. Alicia Yerman from Vallecito's Water District put together a great video with an overview of the program featuring work at this site. And so let's look at that now.
Hello, I'm Debbie Dunn with San Diego County Water Authority. The Water Authority's large landscape direct install program for disadvantaged communities has the goal of educating commercial customers on how beautiful a water-wise landscape can look. We targeted 7 different areas, including 850 Los Vallecitos, took out the grass and planted water-wise plants. We put in plants that have extra flower power. So people going down the 78 freeway can see it and say, wow, I want to do that at my home or my business. Each of the 7 sites are funded through grant funds, and each site is about 10,000 square feet and highly visible. So more people can drive by, see them, and be educated and motivated. At this site, the overhead sprinklers were removed and drip irrigation was installed. Trees are on their own valve with their own special watering because trees need water less often and deeper.
Good morning, my name is Fred Lacine. I'm the owner of Raymond Allen Office Furniture. We're located in the Vallecitos Water District. During the initial planning, I requested that we get a pathway up front. I think the pathway is a wonderful addition because as the plants grow, people will walk along this way. They're going to enjoy the plants. It's just going to be a really good thing for the community as well. The plants were selected by Debbie Dunn. She asked us to pick out plants that we would like for the project, that would be the colors, the style of plants. They put a kind of a circular arch from the center of our building where water comes off the building. This will act like a French drain, so to speak. Water will come down and dissipate and not go into our building. People are going to want to come and say, let's just go for a walk and let's see what's inside this store. And there's some wonderful office furniture in here. It's really a nice process, but you do have to have a lot of patience. And if you're patient, good things will come at the end.
Okay, so what's next? We'll complete all of the sites by June to meet the grant deadline. Permanent educational signage, like you see on the above right, will go in at 4 of the sites. We'll check in with each site annually to ensure participant terms are being met for maintenance. We'll share our experience with other agencies who may be considering similar projects, and we'll continue providing outreach in partnership with our member agencies. And that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Director Coates Hedberg.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations. The transformations are amazing. And, as president of the Water Conservation Garden, it is nice to have a garden where people can go and see, what they can do. But actually having all these great examples out in the community, further show to the community that you can do water-wise planting, and it's so beautiful. I love the extra flower power and, the way we educate and motivate the public this way. It's amazing. I just want to let you know that I did on June 28th visit the San Diego Fair and saw our exhibit that we had there at in the garden area, and with the big pipe and the photos. That was really nice. And then also the presentation of the Nifty 50 plants. So I know later on today at the formal board meeting, the executive director of the Water Garden will be coming to invite everyone to our ribbon cutting of our brand new Nifty 50 exhibit, which will be on August 27th. At 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. So after your guys' board meeting, next month, we can all go to the garden and join in the ribbon cutting, as well as we're not only doing the ribbon cutting for our Nifty 50 exhibit, but a Firewise exhibit, which is the other part of what we really need to look at, our landscaping in San Diego County. So congratulations, Lisa, and congratulations, Debbie Dunn, on your retirement. And thank you for still being very active in our community. So that's all.
Thanks, Kathleen. Director Molina.
Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to congratulate you because as a Mission Bay High School alumni, I was really excited to see that on there. So extra brownie points from me. I wish we had that when I was there about 5 years ago. So, but thank you so much for that.
Director Lyons.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to make a point, kind of call out one of the things that you presented and then also make an additional point. But when you presented that 3 of the 7 projects demonstrated that they had water leaks, I just want to kind of call everyone's attention to nobody wants to waste water. And I think that's one of the primary benefits of our water conservation program is to call to the attention of the public that, yes, nobody wants to waste water. So we want to help use water really wisely. And that's how we're really good stewards. From my perspective as a practicing landscape architect, I find that if you have an irrigation system that's more than 15 or 18 years old, you probably have leaks. And so highlighting that, and because it's underground, you don't necessarily see it. Sometimes you do, and that's usually when it's very dramatic. That's something important to profile. Then I also want to go on the record of saying, if there's the opportunity for continued funding for this kind of program from others, which is really beneficial to us, I would really support us continuing to do this. It's not just about the final product that is a beautiful water conserving landscape, but it's the process and educating people about it's achievable to go through this process and to have a good outcome. And Lisa and Debbie, I want to thank you for your good work.
Along what Director Lyons said, you mentioned the DWR grants. Is that a limited program that has been exhausted, or is there still grants out there available for owners to apply for to do these kind of upgrades?
This was a special grant. It'll be ending in June. We will exhaust all the funds that were available for it. And we don't anticipate that there will be similar funds available in the future. I think there's different focuses out there. So our opportunity will be to kind of celebrate these and put them out there.
So in the future, we'll be looking for other grants to do similar things, but this one's exhausted. Okay, thank you for your report. Appreciate it. Any other questions or comments? Director Molina, your hand's still up. Are you okay? That's not a problem. I don't want to cut you off if you got something to say. Okay, so That ends our informational period. We don't have a closed session, so we are adjourned.
Imported water in 5 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. Before we begin our agenda today for the Imported Water Committee, General Counsel will report any remote attendance disclosures.
We have no remote attendees today.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to the Imported Water Committee meeting for Thursday, July 23rd, 2026. I am Chair Myers, and this meeting is called to order. Marisol, can you please call the roll?
Chair Myers,
Present.
Vice Chair Katz,
Present.
Vice Chair Madaffer, Directors Ayala, Castañeda,
Here.
Fong Sakai,
Present.
Heidemann,
Here.
Kirschbaum, here, Miller,
Here.
Paul,
Yes, present.
Rivera,
Present.
Scalzetti,
Here.
Serrano,
Here.
and Shin.
Present.
Chair, you have a quorum of the committee.
Great, thank you very much. As we all know, when we discuss some of the agenda, I'll be calling on directors who push their speaker button. Please limit your comments to matters not already addressed and state all your points when you have a chance to speak so we can move through the agenda. Do we have any additions to the agenda?
I see none.
All right, public comment time. At this time, I'd like to ask if we have any public speakers.
Calling on public comment for matters on the Imported Water Committee agenda or within the jurisdiction of the committee. We have one speaker, Mr. Javier. You have 3 minutes to make your comments. You may begin now.
Javier family, District 9, City of San Diego, Sir Serrano, West Bank of Choyas Creek. We must be empathic. Under God, we heard from the debate somewhat, discussions, repetitive presentations, lessons learned. We heard audibly the word flood, the word drought, the word conservation, build, construction, kickbacks, affordable, quality water. We dream under God, water shall be free, because this was given, handed to us from heaven. Fortunately, unfortunately, we manage it in favor of business, profit. God help us. We spoke of conservation a while ago, and everybody seems to be happy, particularly our lady here in pink. I was happy looking at her. A testimony of contentment. Conservation to us is more meaningful than collecting this precious commodity. We use, if it's a violation, Sir Serrano, we use the trash cans supplied to us, beautifully colored, and use it to collect from our gutter this precious water. We have 5 trash cans, including those from Home Depot, if only to equate the effort of conservation. God help us. This is the cravings from the public. We are not even given the chance to make comment right fresh from presentations. It looks like watery. It looks like drought as far as learning. True to our heart, we are not here to contest with you, but rather tidbits, pebbles. Pebbles are materials for filtration, right? Treatment. Added to it would create, hopefully, a dream solutions. We are in our twilight years, and we have to tell you that heaven is on earth if only we could work together and come up solution after solution. Many of you here are the haves. I can see it. We don't have the homeless here and the hungry like us now.
Your time is up, Mr.
Thank you.
Javier. Thank you for your comments. That concludes our in-person requests. If there are public speakers in the Zoom waiting room, please raise your hand through the Zoom app or press *9 if you're listening by phone. Chair, there are no more speakers.
Okay, thank you very much. Time for the chair's report. First, an update on exchanges and the MOU. Few items to report today on that. I'll start with an update on our water exchange agreements within California and the efforts to develop interstate exchanges through the multi-agency MOU signed last month up at the desal plant. On the exchanges within California, staff is continuing discussions with metropolitan member agencies and anticipate bringing an update to this board as early as next month. So stay tuned for some additional events there. Staff is also advancing discussions for the pilot interstate transfer program envisioned in the MOU that was signed with Reclamation, Metropolitan, as well as Arizona and Nevada agencies. The CWA continues to carve out a new path forward with this flexible water management strategy, and we look forward to continuing updates from staff. With respect to the Colorado River, on the Colorado River, as you are aware, a new set of river operating guidelines must be in place by October 1st, which is the start of the new water year. Today, staff will share updates on this evolving and very dynamic issue as part of a report on the post-2026 guideline process. A few updates with respect to reclamation itself and the Reclamation Commissioner, who will obviously have an important role in this whole process. You recall last month I reported that Aubrey Betancourt, who has held a number of federal leadership roles related to water and agriculture, was expected to be nominated by President Trump to be the next Reclamation Commissioner. To date, she is serving as acting commissioner, and staff will keep us posted on her status. On another notable appointment, there was a new appointment on the Upper Basin. The governor of New Mexico has appointed a new commissioner to the Upper Basin Colorado River Commission. That is Tanya Trujillo. She has been appointed as commissioner to represent New Mexico, and in this role, she'll represent New Mexico in the basin state negotiations. Some of you may know that she formerly served as executive director of the Colorado River Board of California. So she went on then to serve in the Department of the Interior as the Assistant Secretary of Water and Science under the previous administration. Ms. Trujillo has gone on record stating she was appointed to help bring a fresh perspective with an eye toward collaboration, which is something nice to hear related to the Upper Basin. And as we have shown in California, collaboration is the way to move forward. And so we appreciate her comments and look forward to continuing to work with her in all of these efforts. Now, turning from that direction to that direction, the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. This month, the Met Board approved an agreement with the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation to leave 200,000 acre feet of Colorado River water in Lake Mead to help sustain Lake Mead. Reclamation will pay Met 325 acre feet for the water as part of an extension of its Lower Basin River Conservation Implementation Agreement through the end of 2026. I did some quick math. I can be corrected that I think that's around $65 million.
That's correct.
Unlike previous system conservation agreements, reclamation is not required to keep the water as system water. Instead, the Department of Interior Secretary would have the discretion to use the water for federal purposes, and Reclamation has said it wants the option to use the water to meet tribal obligations in Arizona. So again, I think that's a good sign as to the flexibility and the cooperation that people are working on to try to make the serious drought conditions we have on the Colorado River work as well as possible. Reclamation has not yet agreed to count the conserved water as meeting any post-2026 requirement, but the agreement does provide for a financial benefit for Metropolitan, which, as it trickles down to us, is a good thing, I think. Yep. Now we will move to director's comments. Do we have any director's comments? Seeing none, there are no items on the consent calendar. We have 3 items in our action discussion presentations. The first are the Metropolitan Delegates reports. First up is Director Fong Sakai.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This month, I'll be reporting on the new director and the Camp for Water process. So this month, we welcomed a new board member from Cayugas, Director Reddy Pacala. Director Pacala is a retired water utility leader who spent 34 years working with the County of Ventura on water and wastewater issues. And we have had some discussions with him, and I think that we're going to forge a very, very strong relationship with him, and he'll be a valuable addition to the Metropolitan Board. So Director Pacala replaces Director Jackie McMillan. Moving on to the Camp for Water quarterly update. Through our work and consistent messaging, it is being recognized that more work needs to be done on Camp for Water before it's ready to be used as a decision support tool. Something that has been brought up at this board meeting, or this board, is Metropolitan's reliance on the Representative Concentrated Pathway, RCP 8.5, which Metropolitan has been promoting, and they're finally saying that they're looking at reevaluating. It was also noted that the Camp for Water was transitioning to being led by its water resource management and operations groups. So hopefully this will help make the process more coordinated. And Metropolitan has finally committed to meeting with each of its member agency general managers regarding Camp for Water to discuss what is working well and what may need to be reevaluated. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my portion of the report.
Great, thank you very much. Oops. Thank you very much. Next, we have Director Katz.
Thank you. I'm going to report on the aqua visions for our water future and also facilities naming. So this month, we met and adopted a resolution supporting Aqua's vision for our water future. The vision is meant to elevate the importance of water issues among the gubernatorial candidates and hopefully put it on the forefront. As you may recall, we at the San Diego County Water Authority adopted a similar resolution in May. The vision is still very broad, but staff reported that Aqua would continue working on a more detailed document for adoption later this year. The second item I'm going to report on is proposed changes to the administrative code concerning the naming of facilities. Metropolitan approved the naming of 10 facilities since 2018. When they had last adopted the facilities naming policy, they thought that an update of the policy was needed. The item's been discussed for several months now, and the board voted to delay any amendments for 60 days to allow additional public comments. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have
Delegate Denham.
Yeah, so just very quickly to add on to what Chair Meyer said about the 200,000 acre feet at $325 an acre foot for $65 million that Metropolitan just entered into. So this will become water entered into a federal pool. It'll be available to tribes and to parties in Arizona. Our delegation notes that this looks, walks, talks, and acts like an interstate transfer. And so we're, of course, very supportive of that. And we would hope that Metropolitan will be continue to be supportive of our interstate transfers that we're working on with DSAL. One other thing to note, I don't know if it was very apparent. This is a compensated reduction for Metropolitan and the others. This is separate from anything that's going to happen or flow down through the river, and in relation to the 440,000 acre feet that California will be taking here shortly. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you. And last but certainly not least, Director Miller.
Thank you, Chair Myers. I'm going to be talking about the Delta Islands, which is one of Mel's favorite subjects for me to talk about. I've been on this for about 3 years. For a little history lesson, Metropolitan owns 4 islands in the Delta. They're called islands because the waterways up there literally surround or border a significant portion of the lands, and they create these little isolated pockets. So they bought 4 of these islands in 2016 for $175 million. There's approximately 20,000 acres in total. And coincidentally, each island is almost 5,000 acres. So it's a significant land purchase. In the last 5 years, there's only been one land sale in Northern California in excess of 1,000 acres. So this was a significant buy, and it was bought primarily to assist with the Delta Conveyance Project. Since they bought the land, the Delta Conveyance Project has gone to a new alignment, which makes this ground fairly, let me put it this way, we wouldn't have bought it if we'd known that the alignment was going to be where it is today. So as part of the budget process this year, I had put into the budget the staff to go out and research selling of 2 of the islands. The reason to sell the 2 islands is, as of right now, we're losing $13 million a year in owning these islands. They do not anywhere, any shape or form cash flow. The farming activities on them do not generate enough cash to pay the taxes, let alone the interest on the loan. So we're exploring selling 2 of the islands. The big issue at the board meeting this time is one of the islands is called the Webb Track. The Webb Track is totally surrounded by water and has no bridge. You have to get to it by boat. So it's a real difficult piece of ground to farm. So it's a very attractive piece of ground to put into wetlands or other nature type stuff. And so we got a grant from the Conservancy, Nature Conservancy, of $20.9 million to turn 3,000 acres roughly into wetlands, and also to convert 2,000 acres of farmland into rice land. Rice generates probably 3 to 4 times more income for farming than the conventional farming of other crops. And the ground is so poor that you can't raise high dollar crops on it. You can only raise things like corn or grass or something like that. So it makes a lot of sense to do this project. The problem and caused all the debate on the problem is we created an ad hoc group to study the selling of the islands, and the ad hoc group hadn't had a chance to study the Webb Track and whether it was going to be wise to take this grant and turn the land into what they're proposing, or whether we should sell it first and not accept the grant, which has a 15-year term on it, which means is whoever has the property is bound by this grant for 15 years. Then the ad hoc group did not have time to study it to make a recommendation on how to move forward. The staff had brought this forward to make a decision on accepting the grant and starting construction. The construction contract is right around $17 million, and that's outside of converting the 2,000 acres to rice, which will cost another 5 to 6. One of the concerns is that we were told that it was that Met was only going to have to put up $3 million for matching funds, and we would be using the staff time to account for that $3 million. Well, as of last month, the price creep had raised up over $5 million more than, or around $5 million more than what we'd originally thought it was going to be. So besides losing $3.5 million a year on this island, we're now putting another $4 to $5 million in it on top of what we thought. So we wanted time to analyze it. And because we didn't have the time to analyze it, I made a motion to table it for 2 to 3 months to allow us to analyze it. We were voted down, and they agreed to accept or go into the contract and convert the land without the ad hoc group and analyzing anything. So we abstained in the vote because we weren't necessarily against the wetlands. We're not necessarily against the idea and the mission. We were concerned that we didn't get a chance to study or do a market study to see if that was a piece of ground that we may want to sell before we went into this agreement. So that's why we abstained, not because we thought the project was bad. And that was quite a debate on the floor of the Met, not once but twice, once in committee and once in the boardroom. So it was pretty interesting debate. A lot of friendly discussions, but we didn't carry the vote. So that's my report.
Thank you. Next, we have a presentation on the Colorado River Basin post-2026 operational guidelines update. I will turn this over to our esteemed Imported Water Director, Mina Westford, to introduce the item and staff to present.
Thank you, Chair. You keep coming up with ways to embarrass me, so thanks. The Colorado River is one of San Diego region's most imported water supplies, providing a significant portion of the water our region depends on. And as many of you know, and Delegate Denham said, the current guidelines of the river are going to expire at the end of 2026. And the federal government is developing a new framework that will guide how the river is going to be managed for at least the next couple of years. Given the ongoing challenges with drought, climate change, and increasing demands on the system, these negotiations are amongst the most consequential water policy discussions throughout the United States. The Water Authority has been actively engaged throughout the process to advocate for operational flexibility, reliability for our own ratepayers, and opportunities that support the innovative water management and voluntary water transfers. We're lucky to have Vice Chair Medaffer, who will give some remarks later, being as part of that negotiation on the representing the California-Colorado River Board. But to walk us through the latest developments, I'm pleased to introduce Alexi Schnell, our Colorado River Program Manager, who's been deeply tracking and engaged in the process and will provide an update on where things stand, the key milestones ahead, and what they mean for the Water Authority. Take it away, Alexi.
Okay, thank you, Mina. Good morning, Chair Myers, members of the committee and board. The corresponding memo on the development of the post-26 operational guidelines can be found in your packet starting on page 40. Okay, so as Chair Myers and Mina highlighted, this is a critical time in the development of the next set of operating guidelines for the river. And we are expecting a decision to be made by Reclamation or part of the decision anytime, and Interior anytime now. It could be today. We're thinking this week, probably definitely by the end of this month, and more on that to come here. But I'll start by providing a brief background for context. So new operational guidelines for Lake Mead and Lake Powell are needed to replace the 2007 interim guidelines and the 2019 drought contingency plan, both of which will cease to be in effect at the end of this water year. With these operational management tools ending, Reclamation is developing the post-26 guidelines under the environmental compliance process defined by NEPA, or the National Environmental Policy Act. So efforts on this started a few years ago, with the 7 basin states working to reach a consensus agreement. And then in January of this year, with time running short to have new guidelines in place at the end of this water year, and still without a basin states consensus alternative, Reclamation went ahead and released its draft environmental impact statement. So now we're, as I said, expecting Reclamation to release its final EIS, or final environmental impact statement, as soon as this week. So driving the push that, we've already said is that need for the guidelines to be in place by October 1st, the start of the water year. So just always refer back here to hydrology. So we'll take a quick look at where we are in the basin, which is definitely adding to the complexity of developing the new guidelines in what continues to be a challenging and ever challenging year. As of July 19th, Lake Mead was at 27% full and Lake Powell at 23% full. And importantly, this continues to be one of the driest years on record. It may prove to be the driest, with the forecasted unregulated inflow to Lake Powell, or the amount of water that isn't lost to dry soils. And so the runoff that actually makes it into Powell is at only 36% of normal. So concurrent, we'll get back to the guidelines in a moment, but I wanted to highlight this concurrent with the ongoing efforts to develop the guidelines for water year 27. With those conditions worsening in the basin, Reclamation found that they needed to move forward with near-term actions prior to the new guidelines, largely to protect Lake Powell from getting close to minimum power pool. And shown here are two actions that were taken recently. For one, Reclamation reduced releases for water year 26, reduced releases from Lake Powell to Lake Mead from what was to be 7.48 million acre feet down to 6 million acre feet for 2026. And then Reclamation increased releases from the upper initial units, which are the storage units upstream from Lake Powell, increasing those releases to between 600 and 60,000 acre feet up to 1 million acre feet. And recent reports indicate that that release to Powell from the upper initial units will likely be the full 1 million acre foot release. So now leading back to development of the post-26 guidelines, while discussions started between the basin states and Reclamation a few years ago, the lower basin states and upper basin states have not been able to reach consensus. I think we've all heard that. After Reclamation's February deadline, after other deadlines were missed, and then their final deadline in February for a consensus agreement wasn't met, Reclamation moved forward. So two developments that I want to highlight. On May 1st, the lower basin states submitted a proposal to Reclamation to manage the river through 2028. So this time, this is not a proposal for long-term guidelines, but for a short-term proposal just to manage the river through 2028 that would protect elevations in Mead and Powell and would allow time for continuing discussions toward a 7 basin states consensus. So then in June, Reclamation came forward with a separate federally structured, what they called their preliminary preferred alternative. And there have been ongoing discussions between Reclamation and the basin states and tribes, but the lower basin states discussions with Reclamation have largely focused on how that May 1st proposal might be incorporated into Reclamation's alternative. So now to provide some more detail on what those two developments were. First, the lower basin conservation proposal from May 1st. So this slide provides the key provisions in that May 1st lower basin proposal, which was built on top of the previously submitted lower basin plan. So the lower basin would agree to 1.25 million acre feet per year in reductions for both 2027 and 2028. And you can see at the top of the slide there how that is split with California. That's that 440,000 acre feet for each year, 27 and 28 in a reduction. And Arizona then with 760 and Nevada at 50,000 acre feet. Then the lower basin would conserve, this is the new part that's in this proposal, an additional 700,000 acre feet in total through 2028. So not per year, but in total with federal funding support. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. But for California, you can see there that's 300,000 acre feet in total over those 2 years. So with California's discussions are ongoing on how to share both the reductions and conservation. For the reductions, California's 440,000 acre feet, if based on the law of the river, Metropolitan is expected to take that reduction. And then for the additional conservation, this is where funding is an important component, and it has been announced that there is up to $354 million in federal IRA funding to be available to the lower basin and $100 million for the upper basin. It's important to note that this is for conservation only through 2028 at this point. And under the current administration, there is now a cost share for funding, which means reductions in what reclamation will pay for conservation going forward, and that some conservation could be without compensation. So this is looking to be $325 per acre foot for 27 and 28. Now I'd like to take a look at Reclamation's preliminary preferred alternative that they released in June. That is leading us to what we expect to see coming out in the final EIS, but this is just an overview. Reclamation is proposing a 10-year framework that would enable Reclamation to issue new operational guidelines in increments of 2 or more years. This is a very different approach than we've seen in the past, where we had the guidelines that went on for 20 years. So here they put together a framework, and then every 2 or so years, they're going to have new guidelines. The final environmental impact statement that we're expecting to see released is intended to provide environmental compliance for a wide range of potential operations over those 10 years. But the actual operational rules will be set in a separate 27-28 operating guidelines document. So the final EIS is not going to include the new guidelines, the new operating guidelines. That will come after. Then each year, the operational guidelines would be implemented based on Reclamation's annual operating plan, usually released in August to set operations for the next year. So the framework is meant to allow for incorporation, and this is important, of potential consensus recommendations should the 7 basin states reach a consensus in future talks. So I want to highlight the Water Authority's priorities and perspectives, and Mina hit on these. The Water Authority continues to engage on the post-26 guidelines process through its membership on the Colorado River Board, supporting a framework that protects California's senior water rights and that recognizes our regional investments. And the Water Authority believes the lower basin proposal does represent a balanced approach through 2028. The new guidelines must preserve flexible management strategies, including those interstate water exchanges and voluntary transfers, and any new guidelines must not compromise our region's water supplies. And in conclusion, I will highlight the steps that we see coming up here in the next steps in the near term. As I mentioned earlier, very possibly this week, we expect to see Reclamation's release of the final EIS, so in late July. And then the record of decision consultations, that refers to, it's like a shortened public comment period where agencies meet with Reclamation and discuss the contents of the document. And then in either late July or probably in August, they would sign the record of decision. And then from there, the operating guidelines document would be finalized. Again, we're hoping to see this in August. And then again in August, the reservoir operations set for next year for 27 in the annual operating plan based on the implementation of those guidelines. And then with the start of the water year on October 1st. And that concludes my presentation.
Great, thank you so much. Any questions? Director Freehoff.
Great, thank you. I'm not on your committee, Chair Myers, but I appreciate the opportunity to talk. I have a couple questions, just clarifying questions. So the 10-year framework that Reclamation has stated as their preferred alternative, do you anticipate that being included in the environmental document as their?
Yes, the final EIS, that is what we expect to see in there. I mean,
Okay.
I can't comment on that for sure, but that is what the environmental impact statement is expected to include, that framework.
Okay. Second question, you mentioned that by having it looked at every 2 years, that eventually, when everybody comes to consensus, they'll be able to put a plan in place. What happens before then? Every time, every 2 years, it is just the Reclamation is going to say, hey, here's how you're going to operate the basin, whether you like it or not?
Well, we expect the guideline, we expect the document to outline that in more detail.
Okay.
But that's what they're looking at right now is that, yes, every 2 years, or it could be that they set something in place even for 3 years, but they just want to have increments and they will reevaluate.
Okay.
So they just don't, they're not locking down anything for any longer period of time.
Okay. And then my final question is, does the Colorado River Board do we support Reclamation's preliminary proposal?
Well, we have found that the overall arching consensus on this seems to be that this plan will work well for 27 and 28 as far as, you know, a way to manage this. But as far as anything in the actual guidelines, that's what this next month, I think, once everything is released, we're going to have a lot to say and comment on.
Okay,
and review.
because we can't really come to consensus right now. What the Bureau is proposing may be okay.
I'll just add, we're not happy. California's not happy with it. We wanted them to adopt our proposal that we put forth in May. They are not going to do that. And so how we respond when it comes out is still up in the air. Arizona is prepared their legal team is prepared. Metropolitan has been talking about what their legal arguments are going to be. We expect the Upper Basin is also not going to be super excited. So it's one of those things where nobody's happy about it, but Reclamation has a deadline to meet and is pushing forward. And I think the 10-year framework, I don't know that we'll ever see another long-term 20-year. And remember, the 2000 guidelines have always been called 2007 interim guidelines, right? They were never, no one ever thought that these were going to be the end all, but we did waste a lot of years, a lot of good years, you know, not really diving in until about 2019, where they put a Band-Aid on it with the drought contingency plan, right? That was a Band-Aid. We knew then the system was, you know, coming towards dead pool. And so with the hydrology just continue, we're breaking records every day with the hydrology and what we're seeing in the runoff. So the 2 years, every 2 years gives them some adaptability. Most of the states wanted a longer term just for certainty and reliability, and they just couldn't get to a consensus with that. So I don't think we're happy, but I think, you know, once we see it, we'll determine on how they're using the upper units and see what they decide. But they're still negotiating like daily. And the Secretary Burgum called together, I think yesterday, Dan, you correct me, the governors of each of the states to come together and have a discussion about this proposal as well. So there was a meeting, I believe yesterday or the day before, and we haven't heard that any outcome of that yet. Right?
Okay. Yeah, thank you for taking my questions. I look forward to the update next month.
Yeah, I think I'll just add to that. I think what's going to be difficult is Monday, the EIS will come out. You'll have arguably 2-3 days to comment on it before the ROD is released. So that'll be the tough part.
Yeah, they've indicated they're actually not going to take any comments and respond like normal. No, it's a final EIS. They feel like they released their draft this last spring and they received comments from all over. And so this is the final.
Okay, thank you. Director Coates Hedberg.
Thank you, Chair. It just seems like with this new philosophy of every 2 years or making changes, seems like the State Water Project allocation all over again, which in our case in Imperial Valley, with those farmers, it would really have a stronghold on what crops are served, you know, done, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, so I could see why we're really concerned about this new type of proposal.
Yeah, the linchpin, and that's a good point, Director Hedberg. You know, our system's gotten more flashier. We're seeing more rainfall come through. And so that was why at 45% of a state water project allocation, Metropolitan was enabled to put 200,000 acre feet on the table this year. Meanwhile, they're at record high storage all over their system. They have nowhere to even put this water. So their system is very integrated, and we'll be paying attention to that as we move forward.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions, lastly is the Colorado River Board Representative report. I'll turn this over to Vice Chair Madaffer for his comments.
Thank you. And I usually don't comment at these things because there's just been a lot going on, but I appreciate the update that Mina and Alexi just did. And I'll give a brief update today on some of the negotiations that are going on. I want to start by thanking, I don't know, he just walked out, Eric Heidemann, who attends each of these meetings with me, along with Alexi and Dennis Davis. You know, there's a lot going on. I just thanked you, Eric, for attending and enduring the Colorado River Board meetings each month. There's a lot going on. Some things we can say, and probably some things better left not to be said right now. I think also just hearing a comment a moment ago, even with El Nino coming, that's not going to help Lake Powell or Lake Mead. You know, it's going to flood California, but it's not going to help the upper basin, you know, fill up those reservoirs. You know, there was the governor's meeting, I think it was yesterday. And again, a lot of it is politics. You got the midterms coming up and how this administration views Utah, Wyoming, and New Mexico versus Colorado and California, or maybe Arizona. I think a lot of that is what's been going on. You know, as Mina and Alexi said, this post-26 process is in two different tracks, and you've got the record of decision, which I think, Dan, you were just saying, we think Monday we see that. And that's supposed to have an environmental framework for the next 10 years. But we don't know what's going to happen even this year, other than probably not much when it comes to water in the river. It's pretty dire. It's pretty dire. And then, of course, the second part is the actual operating guidelines, which is, you just heard, are just going to be in two-year increments only, because we really can't forecast. And so, you know, we should see that stuff in operations probably mid-August is what we're thinking. So between now and our next board meeting, we'll have a lot more clarity as to what the Bureau is planning. You know, I think from there, you'll see agreements between the lower basin, and just for everybody's recollection, lower basin is the three states, Arizona, Colorado, and Nevada.
California.
What did I say? Colorado? I meant California, sorry. Duh. And then the upper basin is Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming. And so we'll probably see these agreements coming forward, you know, in early fall, with approvals needed before the end of the year. You know, you've seen the 7 states have spent really the last 3 years trying to reach agreements that expire at the end of this year. And as you also heard, upper and lower basins reached an impasse in February. And so it's like, okay, Bureau, what are you going to suggest? And I don't even know if the Bureau knows. And we love the folks at the Bureau. They're good people, but they've got a tough job. In May, the lower basin did submit our own proposal. And that is kind of the basis between the discussions we've had with Reclamation for the current draft framework. So, you know, and I think I don't have to repeat it, but you've heard the general structure is 1.25 million acre feet of reductions in the lower basin. There's also 250,000 acre feet reduction from Mexico. We did find out that the State Department is talking to Mexico. They haven't really bothered to talk to us at the Colorado River Board as far as what they're doing, but that's another issue. There's a little bit of this going on. I do think that you're going to see Lake Powell releases coordinated with some of the upper basin reservoirs above Lake Powell, but you know, there's no conservation in the upper basin. And so that's where you're going to probably start seeing some litigation issues if a broader agreement can't get reached. And I would say Arizona is probably the biggest litigation threat right now on compact compliance, because they're the ones that are set to lose the most. They don't really have a lot of rights to the river. And, you know, there's stuff that's going on right now with some of the tribes, especially the Navajo Nation. and some of the things that are important for the tribal issues. You know, and Reclamation put together a upper initial unit document, but it didn't even have any volumes. And so, you know, we really don't know where that's going to go. I think you heard Neil reported that the New Mexico governor removed longtime member and past Bureau of Reclamation Commissioner Esteban Lopez as the New Mexico representative. Tanya Trujillo's been replaced. She used to, as he mentioned, run the Colorado River Board. So she knows the lower basin better than anybody. That could be helpful, but then again, her governor is pretty adamant that, you know, they don't want to have to change their allocation. And I think that really gets to the last part I'll just comment on. It's this philosophical opposition of some in the upper basin from taking conservation dollars that the federal government might even offer to help them save water, which we could then use in the lower basin. Their position is simple. Why should we, you know, we're not using all of our 1922 guideline allocation, so why should we conserve? You guys are the ones that are exceeding it. But then again, don't forget, what do we have, Mina? 40 million people being served by the Colorado River in the lower basin. And what do they have in the upper basin, population-wise? It's probably not even 6 million. I mean, it's a small number. But yet in 1922, when they all got together in Santa Fe, New Mexico, they came up with this split that wasn't based on anything other than what they thought the river would be. And they were expecting 13 to 14 million acre feet a year. And it's way less than that. So that's the problem. And the other issue is, if I put it a different way, in the lower basin, like in the Imperial Valley, which is a model of conservation, and our friends at the Imperial Irrigation District have done an amazing job. You know, those farmers there can get crop cycles that, you know, might have multiple cuts a year because of the sun, the shining of the sun, you know, things grow. So conserving water using drip irrigation, all that stuff makes sense. In the upper basin where it's cold and it snows, you might only get 1 or 2 crop cycles a year. So the investment in all that additional irrigation doesn't pan out. It doesn't make sense. So they just flood the fields. And so they're using a lot of water that could be otherwise conserved and sent our way. And that's the disconnect. You know, the upper basin says, you know, hey, it's our water. So the Colorado River Board is going to continue working closely with Reclamation. You know, they've got a tough job, you know, obviously the other basin states, and of course, all of our friends here in California and the various water agencies. Metropolitan is a very big player in this. But, you know, San Diego, and I know I have to repeat this because Dan's done his career here on this, you know, we're in a unique position here in San Diego because we're connected to the second best rights on the river. You know, Palo Verde Irrigation #1 and Imperial #2. And that's who our QSA's bolted onto. Where's Met? #6, #8 in the pecking order. And that's problematic for Met, which is something we need to be concerned over because we want to support Met. But, you know, we're hoping we can do what we can to protect the state's interests, you know, preserve that operational flexibility. But lastly, be prepared to defend California legal rights if necessary. And that is a possibility. So I think I said a lot more today than I have in the last year, but on this topic, but that's just what's been going on. And a lot of the stuff we usually just kind of keep behind the scenes because it's sensitive stuff. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Comments are very much appreciated. I think there's also something to keep in mind. We're reading all about the super El Nino that is almost guaranteed to be inundating California, which probably means it's going to be the driest year you know, coming up in the last few, but we'll see. But just remember, as Vice Chair Medaffer mentioned, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to help the basin states. Those atmospheric rivers that are predicted to come in don't or rarely kind of hit that area as much. And so I know one of our challenges in terms of educating and making sure that our region understands that just because it rains a ton in Northern California and we have good allocations coming from there, Our straw is much more tied to the Colorado River here in Southern California, San Diego, and parts of Los Angeles. So just because it rains there a lot, we have to remind people that what's happening on the Colorado River is still vitally important to our long-term resiliency here. So always keep that in mind. I don't see anyone else in the speakers queue. There are no information items. There are no closed session items. So there is no further business, and the Imported Water Committee is now adjourned. Legislative and public outreach in 5 minutes.
Good morning. Before we begin today's agenda, General Counsel will report on any remote attendance.
We have no remote attendees today.
Thank you. With that, welcome to the Legislation and Public Outreach Committee for Thursday, July 23rd, 2026. I'm Chair Valentin Macedo, and this meeting is now called to order. Nydia, please call the roll.
Chair Macedo,
Present.
Vice Chair Acosta, I'm here. Vice Chair Ray. Director Hilliker. Katz,
Here.
Lines. Here. Madaffer. Molina. Here. Morrison. Norman. Whalen. Whitburn. Williams. Chair, you have a quorum of the committee.
Thank you. As we discuss items on the agenda, I will be calling on directors who push their speaker button. Please limit your comments to those not already made and state all your points when you have a chance to speak so we can move through our agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda?
There are none.
None. Thank you. This time I'd like to ask if there are any public speakers.
We have one public speaker slip for Mr. Javier. Mr. Javier, you have 3 minutes.
No.
Thank you, Cesar and Purita Javier, representing 77 neighbors, West Bank of Chollas Creek, District 9, City of San Diego. Leadership guides us in this process, and we are here to put that seesaw balance, what's going on in the front line, the end of the pipe where the second vital commodity is sold to consumer like Javier family. We are here to work together under God to ensure justice and to promote domestic tranquility, public welfare. I had acquaintance in urban planning, and I could only stated that the element of man should clearly, in bold letters, water, clean water, not just education, not just health, not just sheltering, but water next to the air we breathe, which is in the first element in planning, which is our shell or Mother Earth. we could only say here, yes, we are following a engraved or constructed process like our discussions, our debate, and hopefully come up the right thing to do or solution. We pray that the rules coming from our leadership, whether red, white, green, yellow, be something that is reconcilable
You have 30 seconds
with
left.
our, what's the word there? Loyalty to our Constitution. Sirs, we now entrust to you the clean water for survival. Thank you.
This is for public comment on items on the Legislation and Public Outreach Committee agenda or under the jurisdiction of the Legislation and Public Outreach Committee. If there are any public speakers in the Zoom waiting room, please raise your hand through the Zoom app or press *9 if listening by phone. I see no more speakers.
Thank you. With that, we'll move right into our chair's report. I would like to start off by saying thank you to Chair Serrano and Vice Chair Hilliker for joining the Government Relations Analyst Daniel Guyton at Congressman Vargas's office for a check presentation marking the $250,000 that the Congressman secured for the Water Authority's Moosa Canyon Pipeline Project. I would also like to thank Congressman Vargas for advocating and supporting Water Authority initiatives. In early July, new staff from Congressman Levin's office, local office, and Capitol office met with Water Authority staff and toured the Carlsbad desalination plant. The meeting was productive and follow-up meetings will be scheduled with our lobbying team in DC. In addition, I'd like to highlight a handful of items from the Public Affairs Quarterly Report, which is in this month's board packet. Among other activities, the department supported 2 career fair events and workforce panel discussion, more than 50 special events and presentations, more than 2,600 people using our selfie station for photos in the pipeline at the fair, and 31 original stories on the Water News Network, mainly supporting accomplishments of our member agencies, 181,000 visits to our website, 45,000 views of videos we posted and produced, and dozens of media stories across the country. Yes, thank you to our staff for an extraordinary few months. With that, we'll move through our agenda. Are there any directors with comments? Okay, seeing none. We have nothing on the consent calendar, so we'll move straight into our action, discussion, and presentation items. First, we have Government Relations Manager Megan Quarles will provide a government relations update, followed by a presentation from our federal and state lobbyists.
Good morning. I'm going to go over a few things happening on both the state and federal side, and then I will pass it over to our lobbyists. So I know in the previous committee when during the regulatory update, Jessica mentioned AB 1436, which I had talked about last month and had planned to bring this month to our board to formally support, but we did support for that short time that it stayed alive. So essentially what happened is that was a gut and amend bill because the author really felt strongly to try and get the relief for us agencies to not have to have any of our contractors be part of that clean fleets rule. However, because that state board amendment that included that clarification came out late, that's why it was a gut and amend and wasn't at the beginning of the session. And then committee felt like there needed to be more time to really vet it out, didn't want to just make changes right then, even though that's how the time frame worked. So the bill did not keep moving. However, I know that CMUA and some other associations are discussing that there's a good chance that they will be introducing legislation next year so that it can go through the normal legislative process and hopefully provide some relief. So we'll keep you updated, next year once that, occurs. Another bill I'm excited to talk about is AB 35 that we talked about at the very beginning of the year. I think it was the first bill that we supported, and it was signed into law by the governor. So that is the bill that will allow Prop 4 to have the APA exemption needed so that Prop 4 money can start going out the door. So hopefully we'll start hearing more announcements about some Prop 4 money opportunities and grant funding opportunities. And then the last bill I wanted to talk about, because it came out this last week, and I know there was some conversations with member agencies, is AB 1383 by Assembly Member McKinner from the LA area. And this really has to do with PEPRA and pension reform. And it's sponsored by the by a firefighter coalition, but it really will make some changes to what was passed in 2012 for the PEPRA laws, and it increases the pensionable cap and allows local agencies to adjust their local formula. So there's definitely some large cost implications with that bill. There's other provisions in it, but the other provisions are pretty much just related to safety. So safety employees, firefighters, police. We typically, since I've been at the Water Authority, we don't take positions on these type of bills. We have always followed and really worked through our associations on these bills. We don't have legislative policy guidelines that really go along with the HR component of things. So CSDA is opposing the legislation. We have been following it, and I just wanted to mention it to you so that it's on your radar. And if you have questions, I'm happy to dig in more and get additional information. On the federal side, I wanted to just announce that the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure passed the Water Resources Development Act of 2026, better known as WRDA. This continues to be a bipartisan legislation and effort, which is very nice because we just don't see a lot of that on the federal side anymore. And this largely helps fund the Army Corps. But one other thing that was in this legislation, and it still has to continue making its way through, but was the reauthorization of FEMA's high hazard potential dam program. So we have talked to FEMA over the last 3 years about this program and funding. FEMA was very slow to roll things out on it, but it is an important funding pot for dam repairs and dam safety. So those are the things I wanted to report on, and also just wanted to give everybody a reminder that I did send to all of your member agencies the form for any legislative proposals. So if your agencies are considering wanting us to sponsor any legislation next year, make sure that they reach out to me. With that, I'll pass it to our state and federal lobbyists, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions. So we can go ahead and go to Devin.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you, committee, for the opportunity to be here today. I think a brief agenda on my end. I think Imported Water gave a great overview of where we're at and what we're anticipating over the next couple of days out of the Bureau of Reclamation. That's really going to be the highlight for everyone back here, is what those final documents say. I want to just kind of build, the next subject is on WRDA. I want to build on what Megan said. Another really significant development there was in the House bill, they institutionalize some mission creep, I will call it, for the Army Corps of Engineers. The Army Corps of Engineers traditionally has been known for flood control. Its mission then expanded to environmental restoration, including shoreline stabilization. And over the last couple of years, as we've looked for drought resources, members of the, let's just call it Western states, have worked to expand the jurisdiction of the Corps to include drought mitigation. And how can the Corps' projects be used to address drought issues across the West? And that mission expansion is formalized in the House bill. While it's not that same, formal expansion is not included in the Senate bill. It is you know, it is something that a number of members back here are excited about. What does that mean for San Diego? It means that, you know, projects along the coast for those shoreline stabilization can really extend inland to water distribution, clean water projects. And so as we look for funding opportunities, either at the desal plant or, you know, in those coastal communities within the county, you know, I think we need to start thinking creatively about how to go about securing those funds. The next item on my agenda is just an update on where we're at with appropriations. Just not too long ago, the House of Representatives passed a continuing resolution to extend government funding until early December. As Megan said, the dysfunction has really reached, you know, all-time highs in the last several weeks here, and the perspective of the Republican leadership has just been, let's pass a funding bill and get us past the election. It's not entirely clear yet that the Senate will go along with that strategy. One of the concerns on the Senate side is what the total level of spending and the ratio between defense and non-defense spending. But over the next 2 weeks, I think we will have a little bit better clarity. After 2 weeks from now, following as we move into August, the House and Senate typically go on recess for a month for district work periods. There's about a 3-week work period in September. They recess again in October for elections, and then don't come back until November. So we're really, the number of legislative days before the election is really declining quickly. The last thing on my agenda, just because it's really circulated among the California delegation, is the Cadiz project up in the Mojave Desert. The Department of Interior did approve some environmental docs for that project. The press didn't do a great job explaining that even though the feds have done approval, their side of the approval, there's also a lot of work that needs to be done at the state level. So this isn't something that's moving forward immediately. State Lands Commission plays a big role there. And so, I think as we look out into the future of that project, it's, the administration's approvals in the last week, or I guess 2 weeks now, are not necessarily indicative of where that project is going to go in the short term. That concludes my report for now, unless there are questions from the board. Megan?
Any questions for Devin?
No questions. Director Myers, did you have something?
Do you want me to turn to the state team first and then I'll answer? Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Devin.
Thanks, Devin.
We'll go ahead and turn it over to David Quintana from our state team.
Yeah, thank you. I have my camera on, but I don't see myself on there. Am I showing up?
Oh, there.
No, there we go. Thank you. Not that I want to see myself. I just want to make sure my computer wasn't broke. We are about 65% of the way through our summer recess, so I don't have a lot. I won't take a lot of your time. There's still nothing moving. They're still out. They come back, but which leads me to the calendar. So they'll be back on August 3rd, which is going to come up pretty fast. From August 3rd, they will then go on through to August 13th, which is going to be the appropriation suspense file readout. We'll know which bills get released from suspense appropriations at that time. And then over the next 2 weeks, they will just be on the floor trying to pass out the thousands of bills that are on each side of the House and send them back for concurrence if necessary. Sine die is August 31st. And then the governor will have until September 30th to sign or veto any legislature that is sent to him. So that's an update on the calendar. And then one bit of news is that on June 29th, the governor appointed Tom Gibson as the new chief deputy director at DWR. His immediate past job had been as their chief counsel. But you should know that staff was already on top of this, and we had a meeting with him last month to begin to get a good relationship with him. And Megan, that is what I have.
Perfect. Any questions for David?
Director Katz?
Yes, David, where are the two bills, the Senate bill and the Assembly bill on ratepayer relief?
Yes, the Menjivar bill, the Senate bill, that is in Assembly appropriations. It has not had a date set for a hearing yet. I'm assuming that'll be probably come out in the next week. And the Assembly bill by Assemblywoman Saria 2739, that is on the Senate in Senate appropriations, and that'll have a hearing on the day they come back, August 3rd. My understanding is that that bill is going to suspense, and so she's probably going to waive presentation and just allow it to go to suspense.
And that's the bill that creates the dollars for the ratepayer relief versus the Senate bill, which is basically policy, correct?
The Saria bill, that creates the bucket in which the money will go. In the event that money will then go, if there is any money to send to it. Yes, so Saria's bill, the Assembly bill, that creates the mechanism for which the money, if it ever shows up, will be put into.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Thank
Any
you,
other
David.
questions for David? Okay, seeing none. Neil, you have a question for Megan? Thank you, David. Thank you, Devin.
Thank you. Yeah, just a quick question. I don't remember the bill number, but the PEPRA bill, what number is that again? Just so I have.
It's AB 1383.
Okay. I guess I would be interested, and I think we should be interested in a little more information once it's a little, maybe I don't know if it's fully developed yet, as to what the potential cost impact is on a bill like that. I know, I think most agencies now are close to or have made the conversion of more PEPRA employees than old CalPERS employees. I guess they call it traditional. And so are we going to get more information on that? I would like to see that as part of a specific discussion at the right time.
Yeah, I talked to our HR team this morning, and just to give you that breakdown for the Water Authority, we're about 60% PEPRA and 40% Classic. And we definitely, if the bill's still moving as next month, I can give more details and get some actual costs that it, would.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Director Ray?
Thank you. Director Myers, I actually was looking into AB 1383 yesterday, and it only currently is aimed towards safety, police and fire, not, and I don't know if the water authority is not considered safety. So, however, it's wanting to increase their new members' PERS retirement from 2.5% to 3% at 55. And I can see a problem coming out where PEPRA members who are non-safety would want the same type of increase in their retirement benefit. But right now, it doesn't really affect water agencies because it's only geared towards safety people. But like I said, I think it could open up a little bit of a can of worms for other PEPRA people to want to have the same type of increase.
I believe the impact to us may be, from what I read, and I can dig deeper, but they did, the one part that changes for everybody with PEPRA is the, it increases the pensionable compensation cap. So right now, I think the cap is at like 160 and it increases that cap. But I can provide more information next. This is definitely not my expertise in pension.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, see none. Thank you, Megan. Do you? No. Okay. Next, we have Senior Public Affairs Representative Craig Balbin with an update on capital improvement program outreach support, along with a look at upcoming major projects on the radar.
All right, good day. Thank you, Chair Macedo, LPO committee and board members. My name's Craig Balbin, Classic CalPERS member and Senior Public Affairs Representative. I'm here today to briefly update you on the support public affairs staff has provided for the capital improvement program and to preview upcoming projects requiring community outreach. This presentation builds on the summary provided in the CIP outreach section of the quarterly report on public affairs activities starting on page 54 of your board packet. Thank you. For background, it's important to note that most of our CIP work happens behind the scenes in conversations with residents or updates to civic groups, or even in the design stage when potential challenges are averted. Periodically, we touch base with this committee because of your many connections in the community and to share our efforts to stay connected to each agency where CIP work occurs. I'll start by reviewing the themes that guide CIP outreach, an approach refined through decades of experience, providing outreach services for infrastructure projects, primarily using in-house staff. PA staff are integrated into the CIP project teams, helping identify stakeholders and resolve community impacts well before projects break ground. Then serving as conduits between project partners, such as our member agencies, stakeholders, and project teams. Two-way communication helps minimize disruptions and keeps projects on track and on budget. We also lessen impacts on member agencies that might otherwise receive calls and complaints. We also tailor the communication strategy depending on the size, scale, and potential impacts of each project. As you'll see, some projects impact just a few homes, while others stretch for miles. And as projects proceed, scopes and schedules often change, which means we need to adjust our approach to address the numerous challenges that can arise during any project. And challenges often do arise, whether it's reaching residents not at home, responding to frustrated residents when work schedules change, coordinating with property owners when work will impact their landscaping, ensuring dogs are contained near work sites, or making sure residents are aware of impacts to their driveway when work is underway. Next slide. One of the ways we support CIP work is to adapt to quickly changing priorities and conditions, and a few recent projects have highlighted just how important that is. For example, carbon fiber repairs on Pipeline 4 in Bonsall and Fallbrook were planned for this December, but they were expedited to last month based on new data about the pipe's condition. Through coordination with the team, we quickly connected with stakeholders by creating and mailing a letter with project details to nearly 80 neighbors who are likely to hear or see activities and equipment in our easement. More recently, the Water Authority's comms team was part of the Emergency Operations Center activated for the urgent repair in Del Sur on Pipeline 3. We helped develop key messages with the EOC leads and inform the HOA about actions the Water Authority was taking. In recent weeks, we provided 3 updates to nearby residents through the HOA, and will continue to provide community outreach through the duration of the project. Another area we're increasingly supporting is the critical condition facility assessments by O&M. This work typically involves more heavy equipment and workers than property owners would typically see. We leverage existing relationships with property owners and residents to warn them about the work, address any questions, and minimize our impact on their daily lives. For instance, on the recent Pipeline 1 condition assessment, PA shared the work plans and schedule with the school where one of the structures is sited. School staff were concerned that work would conflict with drop-off and pickup times during summer school. PA shared these concerns with O&M, and the crew adjusted its work hours and area to avoid sensitive times. A prime example of how team coordination and two-way communication with stakeholders can help reduce impacts. The largest project we've supported over the past 3 years is the Southern First Aqueduct Facilities Improvement Project, which concluded in May. It stretched 21 miles through North County and impacted numerous properties, among the most complex outreach challenges of the past decade. The project's outreach plan helped guide strategies, objectives, messaging, and outreach actions during construction, such as the items listed on this slide. As you see on the bottom of the list, we routinely collaborate with our government affairs team to keep elected officials informed about impacts like road closures and changing work schedules in their districts. Next slide. Communications on the first aqueduct included more than 250 interactions by text, phone, or email, more than 85 face-to-face meetings on site or at homes, at least 200 inquiries or construction concerns resolved, and reaching more than 7,400 properties by mail. We also held 3 open houses, met with City of Escondido officials, provided language translation assistance to residents, responded to media queries, maintained a project webpage, and walked door to door in shopping malls that would be impacted by traffic revisions. Oh, and we also held pop-up events in neighborhoods so we could provide information to residents on their morning walks. One of the challenges with this project was coordinating with the trash and mail service when a road was blocked for construction. I spent a few early morning hours moving trash cans to a new trash pickup spot for residents to reduce the impact of our work. At the other end of the spectrum are projects with smaller scopes and scales than the Southern First Aqueduct. These are typically in rural or suburban environments and have limited or localized community impacts. Currently, 7 of these localized projects are in development through 2030. As project teams are formed, Public Affairs conducts early outreach to identify and address potential community impacts so we can tailor our outreach efforts. 3 such upcoming projects include repairs, facility improvements, and a new facility in Escondido, Valley Center, and Poway. None of which are expected to have significant community impacts, but each of which must be studied and monitored as work plans evolve and then communicated to neighbors when the time is right. Next one. There are a few big projects on our radar. One of them is the Ramona Pipeline Improvements Phase 1 project with 2 work sites west of the 15 and 1 in Rancho Bernardo Road. Next. Apologies, next one. That's the one in RB Road. That will require temporary lane closures from November of this year to January of 2027. Over the past 16 months, we've been coordinating with businesses, elected offices, and community groups to make sure they are ready for this inconvenience and do what we can to minimize it. In addition, next one, we're preparing for site work on the Pipeline 5 relining in Bonsall, near and south of the Oceanside 5 flow control facility in the coming weeks. This will have sound impacts in typically quiet rural areas and impact one neighbor's trash pickup and access to their property. As you might expect, we've worked closely with that neighbor, as well as the trash servicer EDCO, on alternate plans to maintain trash service and property access. We've also had at least 10 meetings or conversations with property owners near the work areas, and we'll be reminding all neighbors and stakeholders, including the City of Oceanside and Rainbow Municipal Water District, who has a nearby facility, about upcoming construction activities. By inviting input from stakeholders, coordinating with member agencies, and establishing lines of communication with residents, Public Affairs assists the project team in developing solutions to mitigate impacts. And we invite you to be part of this process. Given the evolving nature of the CIP and how connected you are to your communities, Director Wall, thank you for your comment and desire to communicate with the community at Lake Hodges. We closely coordinate with the project teams and do intend to provide timely notification regarding that project. As work continues on that and other projects, I do invite any board members to let me or my colleagues know if you have questions about CIP projects or concerns about impacts, and we'll coordinate with the project team to address them. Next slide. One final note, aside from the project-specific outreach, our work involves communicating more broadly about the value of asset management and infrastructure investments. We recently launched a new webpage that helps explain the value with videos, photos, and interactive info. We call it Guarding Our Liquid Lifelines and invite you to explore it through the top issues section of the homepage. Thank you for your time. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Director Roback?
Thank you for the presentation. I was thinking about how, our customers, like at Otay Water District would know about projects. Of course, it's the outreach you talked about. A lot of times they'll go onto the website, our website looking for, information as well. So when you were talking about this, I went to the Water Authority's website to see how a customer might go about looking that up as well. I'm assuming that's on the homepage in terms of navigating projects and programs. Is that?
That's correct.
Okay. And they would go down and whatever projects that are currently underway would populate in that section, correct?
Yeah. The current navigation is that there's current, future, and historical projects on there.
Right, because I wasn't
complete.
Some of the things you went over, I didn't necessarily see them come up.
Sure.
So that's why I'm asking,
Sure.
if they
Yeah.
didn't get your outreach, how would they get that information?
Yeah, thank you, Director Roback. So we prepare postcards that we mail out to residents that are within the affected zone, and we provide a link to the project webpage as well as a toll-free project information line and email so that they can contact us if they have questions. More generally, there is a project webpage, the Guarding Our liquid lifelines, and that is intended to be a hub for all of that project information where folks can then go and review the upcoming projects that are coming up.
Okay, so we're getting back to what I was saying, navigating the webpage, the projects would be where they would go.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
And that should have everything.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Roback. And thank you, Craig, and the Public Affairs team. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Job well done. Thank you. With that, we'll move right through our agenda. We have no information items this month. There's no closed session. There's no further business, and the Legislation and Public Outreach Committee is now adjourned.
So we will do lunch and then formal board starting at 1.
Sure. All right, I'd like to call the July 23rd, 2026 meeting of the San Diego County Water Authority Board of Directors to order at 1:02 p.m. As we move through our agenda, I will be moderating requests to speak. To request to speak, please press the speaker button at your seat. Vice Chair Hilliker, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, Vice Chair Hilliker. General Counsel, do we have any remote participation to report?
We have no remote attendees today.
Thank you all for being here. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll and announce whether a quorum is present?
Secretary Acosta.
Here.
Director Shin. Katz.
Here.
Pohl.
Yes, present.
Coates Hedberg. Scolzetti.
Here.
Vice Chair Hilliker. Director Morrison. Sanchez is absent. Myers.
Here.
Rivera.
Here.
Roback. Quaylen is absent. Williams. Heidemann. Norman is absent. Wall.
Here.
Director Abdullahi is absent. Ayala is absent. Douglas.
Here.
Fong Sakai.
Present.
Macedo.
Present.
Madaffer.
Here.
Molina. Chair Serrano.
Here.
Whitburn. Director Whitburn is absent. Supervisor Desmond is absent. Director Lyons.
Here.
Freehoff.
Here.
Castaneda.
Here.
Miller. Director Kirschbaum is absent. Ray.
Present.
Thank you. You have a quorum of the board.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Do we have any proxies today?
We do have one proxy. Director Myers is the proxy for Director Kirschbaum.
Noted. Item 5 is public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters of interest within the board's jurisdiction. Madam Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak?
We have 2 in-person requests. Please do not repeat comments already made during committee. You will have 3 minutes to make your comment. I will start with Mr. Javier. If you can step up to the podium. Mr. Javier, you have 3 minutes. You may begin now.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Clerk, Chair, and the General Manager. We know well that this is an NGO business sector, private in character, and participated by elected officials, if only to deliver clean water to San Diegans region-wide. We could only make 3 minutes inputs, and these are value analysis for recommendation. Strong suggestion to win public trust and for transparency, equity, and justice. Why the continuation of the pipeline 3? What was the reason? What happened? 2, what happened to the surplus, which we would like to sell to anyone who needs water? We need update from the public. Public participation is anemic. Sir Chair, General Manager, and our elected officials. We have been counting since we engaged with these prestigious thinkers. Number 4, we strongly suggest that the process be improved. There's nothing wrong. There is a time allocation. The people here are present. Why do we have to have several meetings when we could structure it in one lump, integrated, cook as one recipe, if only to reconcile with the Brown Act, Robert Act, whatever act, which I believe all under our preamble of the Constitution of the United States of America. You see, we stood pledged at the end when we started meeting this morning at 9. Come on.
You have 30
We
seconds
beg-
remaining.
We beg because this is a precious commodity being debated in an affordable, quality, meaning clean water. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Lauren Magnuson. You have 3 minutes and you may begin now.
Thank you so much. Sorry, can you hear me? Yep. Thank you so much. I wanted to come and public speak because I wanted to thank the San Diego County Water Authority for helping promote the Water Conservation Garden and our presence at the San Diego County Fair. We're really excited to announce that we have the completion of several new and enhanced exhibits designed to educate and empower homeowners with practical budget-friendly solutions for fire resilience, water conservation, and sustainable landscaping. We saw a lot of people come from the fair, and they told us when they came through the gates of the garden that we saw this at the San Diego County Fair. We wanted to come down and see what this was all about. And every time someone comes to the Water Conservation Garden, they're continuously amazed at how this demonstration garden has over 70 exhibits that teaches them how to have low-cost fixes to their home. So I'm here to actually extend an invite to the board members to join us for the ribbon cutting of our newly upgraded Firewise exhibit and our Nifty 50 exhibit. On Thursday, August 27th, you all should have gotten one of these. It's from 5:30 to 7:30. The evening, we'll have some refreshments, guest speakers. We're going to recognize some really generous donors who helped create the Nifty 50 exhibit for the community, because it's one of the biggest asks that we have had over the last 25 years. We get these brochures from the San Diego County Water Authority. We really appreciate them, and you'll see a good amount of those plants in this exhibit. But this particular one, on July 9th, the garden hosted the Fire Safe Council meeting, and we welcomed more than 60 fire prevention professionals. For a preview of the new Firewise exhibit, we worked with San Miguel Fire, CAL FIRE, the Resource Conservation District on the design, implementation. We worked with Helix Water on that as well, since they worked with Heartland Fire. That's all up on our website now. You can see this Firewise exhibit. But the response was overwhelmingly positive. One particular meaningful comment came from a representative from the California Department of Insurance, who praised this exhibit for providing homeowners a practical, affordable way to create defensible space and improve their insurable home. So feedback like this, it reinforces our mission to educate and inspire. We really hope that the Water Authority will re-engage with the Water Conservation Garden. You'll become a JPA member again, because there's exhibits like these that are helping the community on so many different levels. And so again, thank you for promoting us at the San Diego County Fair, and I hope that you can make it on August 27th. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. If there are public speakers in the Zoom waiting room, please raise your hand through the Zoom app or press *9 if listening by phone. I have no further requests.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Director Rivera, I have you in the speakers queue. Do you have something?
Yes, thank you. This morning, I just wasn't quick enough to hit the speak button when our general manager spoke about the water transfer to Mexico. And so I wanted just to thank everyone involved in that, from the County Water Authority and the Otay Water District, because it's that infrastructure that provides the water to Mexico. And especially also wanted to thank our counterparts in Mexico for making sure that all this work happens as smoothly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6 is additions to the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any additions to the agenda?
Thank you, Chair Serrano. I'd like to announce an addition made to today's agenda, continuing the emergency declaration for repairs to Pipeline 3. The revised agenda and memo for this emergency item was posted to the website and distributed 24 hours prior to today's meeting. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much. An actual addition to the agenda. So item 6A is the continuation of the emergency declaration for the repair of Pipeline 3. I will turn it over to the general manager to begin the presentation.
Chair, we're not having a presentation. I think you all are aware through the emails that we've sent and the presentations we've had earlier in E&O today. So we would look for a motion in a second to continue this item.
That I will entertain.
Motion. Oh, second.
I have a motion from Director Freehoff, a second from Director Molina. Any discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, will you please open the vote?
Thank you. Please vote now. Director Miller? Thank you. Vote passes.
Thank you very much. Item 7 is the approval of minutes. Before us today is the meeting minutes for the formal Board of Directors meeting of June 25th, 2026. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
A motion from Director Molina, a second from Director Wall. Madam Clerk, will you please open the vote?
Thank you. Please vote now. Director Miller? Thank you. Vote passes.
Thank you very much. Item 8 is our presentation and public hearings. We have 2 presentations today. Item 8A is the recognition of the employee of the fourth quarter, someone we as board members know very well. I will turn it over to our clerk of the board for the presentation.
Thank you. So hello, everyone. Today, I'm very proud to recognize our employee of the fourth quarter, Deputy Clerk of the Board, Jessica Reifschneider. Although Jessica's only been with us for 2 years, during that time, she has consistently demonstrated exceptional professionalism, reliability, and dedication in supporting the clerk's office and our board operations. I will add her being here today as a further example because she was affected by the fires and evacuated. Her attention to detail and willingness to go above and beyond make her a tremendous asset to my team and to the organization as a whole. Jessica was nominated for Employee of the Quarter due to her exemplary performance in several areas, but most notably for her composed and effective management of the March board meeting under challenging circumstances. Jessica was recognized for her outstanding performance and composure during the March 19th board meeting, which you're all aware was a very highly visible and high-pressure meeting that served as a signing ceremony and a media event during the time that I was out on an emergency leave. As stated in her nomination, she demonstrates exceptional professionalism, a strong work ethic, and an unwavering commitment to the Water Authority's mission, vision, and values. Please join me in congratulating Jessica on this well-deserved recognition as our employee of the fourth quarter.
Thank you. You said I'm composed, but I'm a little nervous right now. But thank you for this incredible honor. I'm very surprised and deeply grateful to be recognized. It's both humbling and inspiring to know that my contributions are valued. And I feel extremely fortunate to work for a company that genuinely cares about its employees and invests in our growth and success. I want to express my appreciation to the general managers for promoting such a supportive and inclusive work environment. And additionally, I'm especially thankful to Kelly, whose guidance, encouragement, and leadership have been instrumental in my success. I'm grateful to work alongside colleagues that consistently provide teamwork and support, and I admire the talent here, and I feel like I get to be a part of the A-team. So thank you again, and I'm truly honored. Thank you.
All right. Item 8B is a Director Service Award and Retirement Plaque for Director Jerome Jerry Buckowitz. They wrote it. It's on the award. Director Buckowitz joined the board in 2016 as the representative for the city of San Diego. Last month, he announced his retirement from the board, marking 10 years of dedicated service. Throughout his tenure, Director Buckowitz served as a board officer, an MWD delegate, and assumed various leadership positions across multiple committees and work groups. I would just say personally, I will always be indebted to Director Buckowitz. It is because of him that I was able to go into board leadership, and I will always thank him for providing me with that opportunity, which was one that I didn't imagine when I came onto the board. So forever grateful for Jerry. And just as many of you know, he's had a very distinguished career outside of this boardroom. And so I really think that his service here is the cherry on top of a well-earned, as I understand, retirement. that Director Buckowitz shared with me that his time here coming to an end is really informed by his grandson, who he wants to spend more time with or needs to spend more time with. And so I think that's as worthy of a reason as anything, but I just want to simply express my thanks and appreciation to Director Buckowitz, and I will invite him up to the dais. And as he approaches the dais, I would welcome any comments from fellow directors, starting with Vice Chair Hilliker.
Thank you very much. I'm really going to miss you, Jerry. You and I are very similar in that we kind of just tell it how it is. And whether that's putting our foot in our mouth or making somebody happy, that's what we do. But I really appreciate your friendship and your mentorship over the years.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hilliker. Director Medaffer.
I just want to echo what you already said, Chair. Jerry is somebody who I have known since my early days at the city of San Diego. And he is the same, whether we've gone camping at Zion National Park together, as we've spent many times together, as a resident of Del Cerro, which was my old council district. Jerry, you are a true gem for San Diego, and it's been amazing to work with you here at the Water Authority these last 10 years. I'm going to miss you, but I know you and Julia taking care of that terrible 2 kid at home. It's got the smile on your face that I like to see. So congratulations for all that you've done here at the Water Authority, and as Nick said, the entire region of San Diego.
Thank you, Director Medaffer. Director Molina.
Mr. Buckowitz, thank you so much. I don't know if you remember, but we met when I was in my 20s. That was about 5 years ago. And you were on the board. But you have been such a great inspiration and help. I know during all of my community work, you were the chair of the Labor Council, and you supported a lot of our crazy ideas as young people have. And so I appreciate you. I don't know if you remember all the parades and the festivals we did for a person that we don't honor anymore. But during that time that we did, you were there. You supported us during all of those events, and you brought all of the Labor Council and unions to support us as well. So, and you did that so eloquently. So thank you so much. And you've been such a great mentor here. And I love hanging out with your grandson and your daughter. And your daughter's amazing. And I know that's a lot because of you. So thank you.
Seeing no further speakers, I will turn it over to Director Buckowitz.
Yeah, I just want to thank all the board members. I really enjoyed my 10 years on the Water Authority. Even when we had our differences, we were polite, courteous to each other, and professional. I want to thank the officers and for allowing me to be a Met delegate. I really got to learn a lot about the water system and Southern California, and it's enough to learn about San Diego, but then to be able to learn about all the things that involve metropolitan. I want to thank the management here at the Water Authority. I have a lot of confidence in Dan and the leadership, and I am proud of the fact that every opportunity I've had to create opportunities for younger people than me to play leadership roles, it's critical that we do that so that the people who follow us has had the right training and experience, and we have to give them the opportunity to do that. I'm really proud of Lorena Gonzalez, who, when I left the Labor Council, now Lorena runs the whole California State Federation of Labor. And it's these opportunities that we can create for people younger than us to take on the challenges that they're going to have. We thought we had it tough. Look at where with the water, look at where things are going to go. So with that, I want to thank all of you and appreciated the time working with you.
All right, item 9 is the report by chairs, starting with item 9A, which is my chair's report. After today, I only have 2 more advertised dates chairing this body, the August meeting and the September meeting. On July 1st, members should have received an email from the clerk of the board with a memo from me outlining the board officer nomination process, which also included a nomination form. A reminder, members do not need to submit anything unless you are nominating someone for chair, vice chair, or secretary. And as a reminder, written nominations are due to the clerk of the board by August 10th, 2026. For those who didn't know, it is Pride Month in the city of San Diego, and as the first LGBTQ chair of this body, I was proud to attend and participate in a number of LGBTQ Pride events throughout the city, including walking with Mayor Gloria in the annual Pride Parade. As was noted also during LPO, I joined our public affairs staff and Vice Chair Hilliker to meet with Congressman Juan Vargas. Congressman Vargas secured some resources for us for our Moosa Canyon project. And so we were honored to go do a check presentation at his office. I promptly took that big check and walked it to the bank. They looked at me funny. But we're grateful for his leadership and his efforts to support projects and fight for projects back in Washington, which have an impact here at home. So that will conclude my report for this month. Item 9B is the report of committee actions. Madam Clerk, will you please provide a report of the action taken by committee today?
Huge report today. Engineering and Operations Committee, the board awarded a contract to JF Brennan Company, Inc. in the amount of $1,427,000 for the Lake Hodges Hydroelectric Facility Isolation Project. Water Planning and Engineering imported water, and the LPO Committee had no reportable action. That concludes my report.
Can I have a motion to approve consent calendar item 10.1?
Motion.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Hilliker, a second from Director Molina. Madam Clerk, will you please open the vote?
Please cast your votes.
Director Morrison?
Directors Morrison and Castaneda.
Got it.
Thank you. Vote passes.
Thank you very much. Item 11 is our action, discussion, and information items. Item 11.1 is an information item. It's the Board of Directors reappointment for the Liebenheim Municipal Water District, that of Director Neil Myers, with a term date ending August 1st, 2032. Congratulations to Director Myers. Item 11.2 is an action item requesting approval of Resolution 2026-14, which will set a public hearing for the August 27, 2026 Administrative and Finance Committee to consider amendments to the Water Authority's Local Conflict of Interest Code. I will entertain a motion. I have a motion from Director Molina,
Second.
a second from Secretary Acosta. Madam Clerk, will you please open the vote?
Thank you. Please cast your votes. Item passes.
Item 11.3, well, he left, but yeah, item 11.3 is an action item requesting the approval of Resolution 2026-15, honoring Jerry Buckowitz upon his retirement from the Board of Directors. As promised, I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion from Vice Chair Hilliker, a second from Director Scalzetti. Madam Clerk, will you please open the vote?
Please cast your votes.
He just took the plaque and the frame and ran.
Item passes.
Yeah. I'm assuming that passed, yeah?
Yes,
Yeah,
item
okay,
passes.
Sorry, I made a joke and just got distracted. Item 12 is our special reports. General Manager.
Yeah, just very briefly, I want to let you all know that we'll be coming back to the board in a month or two, hopefully a month and not 2 months, to give you some information on the Eastern and Western exchange agreements that we inked a couple of months ago. We're looking to expand those. Those two agencies have requested additional water as we head into 2027, so longer term. And then for action in a month or two, we will have before you an agreement with the city of Burbank for an additional water exchange. So looking forward to that. And of course, all of this will be, these 3 transactions will be folded into the rates that you all will start to deliberate on in 2028 for 2028. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. General Counsel,
I have nothing to report.
Sandag report, Secretary Lyons,
I have nothing to report.
Sandag Subcommittees, Borders Committee,
Nothing.
Regional Planning Committee? Hearing none. Are there any AB 1234 compliance reports from any directors? Did y'all do anything recently? No? Okay. All right, that takes us to item 13, which is our closed session item. We have one item on today's agenda, the public employee performance evaluation of our general manager. General Counsel Edwards, will you please make the appropriate announcement to take us into closed session?
We will now adjourn into closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. We've emerged from closed session with nothing to report.
All right. Before we adjourn today, I want to again acknowledge our colleague, Gary Arant. As I said this morning, his passing has been deeply felt by this agency and so many across the broader water community. On behalf of the San Diego County Water Authority, I want to extend our deepest condolences to Gary's family, his loved ones, and all those who knew and loved him. Our general manager has shared with the board information regarding a celebration of life. And I would certainly, before we close today, provide an opportunity for any members who want to say anything at this time. Starting with Director Medaffer.
You know, when you said it all this morning, Nick, but and you spoke so beautifully about really the person that Gary Arant is. He still is in my world, in my face. You know, I knew him from my days on the city council. I used to see him in Sacramento at Aqua meetings. He was like the king of Aqua. He went to everything. I could see a bunch of people nodding their heads. I'd sit with him at the bar at the Citizen Hotel, and he would talk water policy with me. And of course, that was when I was on the council chairing the committee that handled the water and wastewater departments at the city. We had a mutual respect for agriculture in San Diego County. I was really pushing him to take over as executive director of the Farm Bureau. I think he would have been a great role using all his years of expertise there. When I got recruited in 2022 to be the volunteer general manager of tiny little Wainola Water District with 70 meters, which is something I still do to this day. Gary came up to Julian and spent time and really taught me a lot about, you know, running as a volunteer, even as a small little water district, and kind of gave me the guidance on getting grant money. We just got a $758,000 grant from the state for a water treatment plant. And that just leaves me with my last comment, and that's all about infrastructure. Gary was Mr. Infrastructure at this agency. As many of you know, it was he and I that frequently were in a strong agreement when it comes to budget time. And when it was really a temptation to go with the low end on CIP, we kind of argued, and I will continue to argue in his memory to make sure that we don't ever skimp on our infrastructure investments for this system that is so important to the 3.5 million people that live in this county. And Gary, you may be gone from the world, but you'll live on in our memories.
Director Myers.
Thanks. And when I came on the board, I was seated way down here at the end of the table. And it turned out to be my lucky day because I was right across from Gary all the way up until the meeting last month. And he was so gracious to me as a newbie director, kind of showing me in the ways on the board, which can be daunting, especially at the very beginning of starting here. And we got together several times, one-on-one at the famous, or I think especially for the general managers here, the infamous Golden Egg Omelet House in Escondido, where the waitress knew Gary and didn't even have to ask for his order. And his generosity in sharing with me just a little bit of his wealth of knowledge was amazing and really has helped inform me, and I think has helped me a lot in understanding the ways here. So I would never pretend that I knew Gary in any way as much as many of those who are in this room knew Gary, but he made a real mark on me. And I'm going to do my best to pay that forward. And I know I'm going to miss having him across the way here. So thanks.
Secretary Acosta.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to get to know Gary, and similar to Neil, I started about the same time as Neil. I didn't know him as well as some people here in the room, and I know it's hard for some of you to speak, but I just wanted to share that I really do believe that people's legacies live on through the people that they affect. A little bit of me and a lot of some of you that he's really mentored and helped and assisted over the years. So I know that in working with you, I will be thinking of Gary many times. He was very generous and very gracious, as Neil said, and sharing his knowledge and wisdom with us. So just wanted to say thank you for being part of his legacy. I think we all are part of that.
Director Scalzetti.
Thank you, Chair. Had a lot of good memories with Gary too, especially at Aqua. He liked to get rowdy and stuff, and it actually kept us all entertained and gave you the confidence to be there to let loose, having a drink and being new and try to understand the industry and stuff. And he was right there to give you that knowledge and give you that hand up. In Helix, we had kind of a tradition of naming some some pump stations, pipelines, and some things after our forefathers and our pioneers. And I would like to see if we could just keep that maybe in mind if there's a pump station or something in Valley Center that they're erecting that maybe we can give a dedication. Thank you.
Yeah, Director Scalzetti, David Edwards and I have been talking about potential changes to our admin code to allow for something like that. So we'll circle back to the board with some information.
Director Ray.
Thank you. Gary, as everyone has mentioned, has really been instrumental in mentoring and educating about the water industry. I'm not sure if there's many more people in the state that know as much about water as Gary did. And he loved his job. I think that's why he stayed working as long as he did. Gary was, I think, it's for many people more than anything, most importantly, was a friend. He was a friend that was as generous with his time and his knowledge, and just his heart, more than anything. He loved his granddaughters. He had two little granddaughters that he used to take to tea at the Grand Tea Room in Escondido, and he led the worship service at his church that I had the opportunity to go and hear him play. I don't know if you guys knew Gary played the guitar, and you know, he was just a really great friend whose absence is going to leave a hole in my heart. But I don't know if I tried my whole life if I could ever be as good of a person as Gary was, but I'm going to try. And I hope that as we go about the business of water, we all keep in mind how he acted and how he wanted more than anything in his role was to serve the people of this region and do it selflessly and without an agenda. And that we just try to embrace what Gary brought to this industry and to this board. That's all.
Director Miller.
Thank you, Chair. Back in 2011, when I got on this board, I got introduced to the North County Caucus, and we had Keith Lewinger and Gary Arant and the rest of us, and I was a new guy. And I remember sitting there with those two knowledgeable guys, and I would come up with the off-the-wall questions about the water, and we would talk for 20 or 30 minutes on the topic that I knew nothing about, and I would learn so much, and that's what I'm going to miss, is the knowledge that Gary had was tremendous. And I actually, about 3 months ago, said, Gary, you know so much, you ought to think about putting this down on paper, because your loss, if you ever go, the loss will be felt greatly, and a loss of that systemic knowledge of the industry. Because if you needed to answer a question answered, you just had to go to Gary, and he had the answer. And that knowledge is going to be greatly missed.
Vice Chair Hilliker.
Thank you very much. So Gary was the longest tenured member on this board. So I don't know if you guys knew that, which now makes me, with him gone, the longest tenured member on this board. Makes me feel old. I'm really sad that Gary's gone. He was a mentor to me, just like Marty said. You ask him a question and he'd take the time and he'd go through it point by point, and it was so educational. It's going to be really hard for me at the Farm Bureau Water Committee meetings without him there. He was always a voice of reason, talking some of these guys down and talking them off the ledge, because some of these farmers in North County that have trees are crazy. And they think they should get water for $1,000 an acre foot. And Gary would always remind them why they can't. They don't want to listen to me because I'm in leadership here, but Gary was the Valley Center guy, so that was cool. But I'm really gonna miss his leadership and just everything that he's taught me. Back when I got on this board in 2007, between him and Fernsteiner, I could go to both of them with questions and they would just, give me the time. So rest in peace, bud.
Mayor Morrison.
Yes, when I was first on the board, let's see, I think I came on in 2004, I believe it was, and where Commissioner Myers is at now, that was my seat there, directly across from him. And so I was on for 14 years at that time. And I don't know what impressed me more was with Gary's total knowledge of the water industry and his ability to articulate it, or his wit. And it was constantly this. There was little notes he kept flicking across. And, and it would always have some kind of impact, but he always had a little twist to it. And that was just part of his nature. And to me, he was and always will be Mr. Water.
Seeing no further speakers, I want to thank all the members for your reflections. The San Diego County Water Authority Board of Directors will now adjourn in the memory of Director Gary Aram.